Hey, Mia. Y'all are hearing me clearly, right? Okay, give me 1 second. Is that clearer a bit for some persons? Okay, good. No, I was hearing myself as well. That's what I was trying to get you. So you can go ahead and share it, right? So we're gonna begin. You're ready to eat up this paper. That means you've been practicing already. You've been practicing already. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and begin. Let's see how much papers we could get you for this little while, right? But remember, these questions could test anything from all of the modules. So that's map skills, that's human systems, physical systems, and the human environment systems as well. So it could be any topic, and it's going to test like a variety of them. So you're going to see a lot of questions on that, and there's going to be a certain amount per system. So you're going to start to see that pattern as we go through. But one of the key things you want to remember, with geography multiple choice, is that you have to be very careful when you're reading the responses, because a lot of them are going to be very close to each other, right? So you have to be very careful. So let's have a look at this paper, please. And before I zoom into the questions themselves, let's have a look at this map, right? And this map, it says item 1 to 4 refers to the following map extract on a scale of 1 to 50,000. And then we have the follow-up questions. So we have number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with, well, 1, 2, 3, 4 that refer to this question, right? So y'all are seeing clearly. You want me zoom a bit for you all? Let me know. Clear, because I know sometimes you'll need a little zoom for when you use glasses like me. Clear or zoom a bit? Zoom, zoom. Okay, I'm zooming. Right, so let's have a look at it. It says, what is the direction of the trig station at shut over? And it gave us the grid reference here from Robertson Halt, and it gave the direction as well, or the grid reference. But what's the key word when we want to know what's our starting point and end point? What do we look at? What's that word that we continually have to look at? What's that word we look for to know the starting and the ending point? What is the direction of the trig station at Shutover from Robertson Halt? And that keyword is that from, right? So good. So we're looking at that word from. At and from are the keywords. So where you have that word from, that is going to be your start point, and then the other one is going to be your end point. And why we care about that is because at the start point, that's where you're going to do your four cardinal points, which is north, south, east, and west. And then you're going to connect to the end point. So that's why we care about that, right? So let's have a look at it, right? And it's also testing some of the things with our easterns and our northings as well. So the first one was 72 9 46 3. So we have to look for this grid box with 72 and then 46. The 76, this 72, I mean, which one is that? The eastern or the northing? Tell me. The 72, is that our easting or northings when we're given our grid references? Which one always comes first? And then which one do we look at after? the eastern, right? So the 72 is the eastern. It's running from north to south, right? So let's look at the map again. It's running from north to south, right? And the values are going to increase going towards the east. So let's have a look at the map. We'll make it small and then we'll zoom in a bit, right? So that means that these lines that we're seeing here, these lines, these will be our eastern lines, and then the other lines that are going across, these will be our northings line, right? So that's what we have to remember with this. So then it says 7246. So we're going to look for that area, 7246. So we can look at it. So our eastern value, 7246. Where does that intersect, right? So when we're looking for it, right, we have, and it says the trig station, and we know it's a trig station by our triangle, right? So we found our first location. So that is basically our first location, and then we need to get our next location, which was Robertson Holt, which was 71, and then it has 47. So 71, right? 47, and where that intersects, we have this location right here. And it says, what is the direction of the trig station at Shotover from the Holt area? So then we will draw a 4-point compass here, and then we will draw a line and connect it, right? So look at that, right? And then let's look at the different options that we have, right? So it says, what is the direction of the trig station from there? Is it A, southeast, B, northeast, C, southwest, or D, northwest? What do we think based on what we just had? A, B, C, D. Which one do we think? Based on what we were looking at just now. Now remember the location. What was our location? So we had here, and then we had here. And we drew it here, and then we connected to here. Right, good. So we had southeast, right? So this one was southeast in terms of this, right? So not too bad, southeast. Look at the follow-up question. What is the contour interval in feet in grid square 7045, right? So we're looking for the contour interval, which is that difference between all of the contour lines. And then we're going to look at 7045. So we're going to look for that box, right? 7045. Let me zoom a bit for you all to see. It's a bit blurry, but right, 7045, right? So that will be this box here, and you have to look at these values. And when you look at the values, it's sort of going from like 750 to 1000, 1000 to 1250, 225, and then 2000, right? So you had to look at the values and then minus that difference. And then when you minus that difference, in terms of that, because it's sort of showing you that pattern of like 1000 and then 750, and then it had the 225, like 2250 to the 2000, our contour interval was that 250, right? So you just had to look at the contour lines and then sort of just minus to get that difference between them. But look at a few of them in case you aren't sure what you are looking at. Number 3, what is the height in feet of the highest point in grid square 7045, right? So this one it's a follow-up to question 2, because we just said that the contour interval was 250, and now they're asking for the highest point in this grid square. So, but here's one of the things you have to be careful with, because the highest point is not this contour line here, which is the 2250, but this one in the center here is the highest point. And since it did not give you, right, they did not give you a value for that sort of peak there, you have to calculate it. But they just made us calculate the contour interval. So you will take that 2250 and then you would add that 250 and then you will get 2500 as the contour value for there. So when you look at the options, then it's going to tell you that the height is actually B, which is the 2500. And then we have one last question on this because it says items 1 to 4. What is the grid bearing of Robertson Hall? So that's the same location we came from, which we are looking at just now from the trig station, right? So we know from is our starting point. So we go back and look at them, right? And it wants the grid bearing, which is the degrees. So this is our starting point. So we'll draw our 4-point cardinal point, and then we will connect it to here, and then we have to work out the degrees for that. But when we calculate it, right, let's have a look at it, right? So when we look at that in terms of the angle, we know that it's past the west location, so it's going to be more than the 270 because it's past the west. Now you all have to use your geometry sets and calculators, right? But look at the options for it. It says A 65 degrees, B 115 degrees, C 295 degrees, and D 355. So when we look at that, because it is more than the 270, but it's not very close to the north there to give us that 360. So this one is actually 295, right? So again, the first set of questions, they always sort of test something with math skills, and then it transitions maybe into like physical systems, human systems, and then human environment systems. We're good with that? We're good up to this part. We're like, yeah, a lot of map work for 4 questions. We're good? Thank you. Thank you for confirming. Right. So good. Let's look at this one now, right? And it says item 5 refers to the following diagram. So we have this diagram here and it's showing us a lot of stuff, right? So it has the sea, it has the river, and it has all of those contour lines and the north arrow. And then it says, what is the approximate gradient of river X from its source to its mouth using a distance of 4.8 kilometers. So they want us to calculate the gradient, and then we're using the 4.8 kilometers. So we know we don't have to measure anything. So the formula for gradient is the vertical interval divided by the horizontal equivalent. So in this case, they have given us the horizontal equivalent, and that horizontal equivalent is the 4.8 kilometers. So now we have to calculate the vertical interval. And to calculate that vertical interval, we have to use the contour lines. And it says a gradient of river X from the source to the mouth, and the source will be the starting point, so up on top there, and then we have to go to that mouth. Now there's a bit of a trick in this one, so you'll need to be careful with that, right? So if we look at it, it goes from, just changing my color, it goes from 20, 40, 60, 80. So our contour interval is 20 meters, right? So now what we need to do is there are 1, 2 lines, right? So basically what is happening is that it's actually, so you have to add to get to that point, right? So give me 1 second. Let me just erase this. So then we will go 100, right? We will go 120. So it goes 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, right? And then we have to go all the way up. Do we stop at the 120 or do we go further? What do y'all think? Do we stop at that 120? What do we think? Is that a contour line we're stopping? So we're working out the contour value. What would be the contour value of the source? We stop there. So we were counting it, right? So we were saying this line was 100 and then this one was 120. Right. So then how then would we get that distance then from the source to the mouth? Right. And then I have someone saying we go to the zero. So what are we doing? So we have 120 and zero. What do we care about with those two values? What do we need those two values for? What do we need to do? What's the next step for that? So we have the 120 and we have that is the source, and then we have the mouth at zero. What do we need to do? We have two values. What are we doing? We're gonna minus it, right? So good. So 120 minus 0 is 120, right? But can we leave it like that? Can we leave the 120 and divide it by 4.8? No, we cannot, because the 120 is in meters and the 4.8 is in kilometers. So now we have to convert that 4.8 into, right? So we have to convert now that 4.8 into meters. So it will be the 120 divided by 4,800, because there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. And then here's the thing with gradient. You don't just say 120 divided by 4,800. It's 120 into 120 is 1, and then 4,800 into 120 is 40. So the answer for this one is 1 to 40, and that will be our gradient for this river, right? I know some of you have a little issues with gradient. We got that? We're like, yeah, we can survive that gradient question now. You'll survive that today? So I could scroll. We're good with the working and everything. Coming off it, scrolling now. Right. Zooming out of it. So it says item 6 refers to the following map extract. Good. Which village is approximately 75 meters above sea level? So we have X, Z, and W and Y. Which one is approximately above 75 meters above sea level? X, Y, Z, W. A, W, B, X, C, Y, D, Z. Which one is approximately 75 meters? Right, good, because look at it there, right? So we went from, good, so we have the 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. The Z is like around 50, so it is our W, right? So not too bad. Don't let it show you off just because it says above sea level, right? So that's all you had to do for this question, right? Not too bad compared to some of the others. Right, so let's spend some time. I'm going to keep this zoomed in for number 7, but then I will zoom out a bit for number 8, right? So let's have a look at it. Which of the following words best describes the slope between T and V? So you have to look at it, right? And look at what's going on, right? So we have a building, we have sand, we have contour lines, and it's telling us our contour interval is 40 meters, and it wants us to talk about the slope between T and V. What do we think? Is it A, flat, B, steep, C, gentle, or D, undulating? I remember these are contour lines here, right? So I'm darkening them for you all to see. What do you all think? Right, so it's steep because the contour lines are very close together, right? So very, very close. So it's steep in terms of that, right? Good. So not too bad. I want us to focus on number 8 because that one is a bit different, right? And it requires you to just really focus on what you're seeing. So it says a contour profile from point R to point X would look like what, right? And basically, it wants you to basically talk about the shape that here to here would be like, right? So that's what they did a contour profile of. So it means that it's going to have this point here, which is a 40-meter interval. Then you're going to have a 80-meter interval here. You're going to have a 120 here. Then the 120 is going to be here again. the 80 here, and then the 40, and then x is a bit below 40. So what you would have had to do for that is basically like a line graph of that, and then they gave different options, right? So when you look at all of them and you try to match that, if you are to visualize it, let me zoom in a bit. The one that looks like it the most will be B, because look at it in terms of this, right? So it will be the 40, the 80-meter contour line that we looked at. Then you would have the 120, the space with the 120, and then it dips below the 40. So don't let that question throw you off. That is what this question was asking you. You just had to map all of those contour lines and try and visualize which one it looks like. Some of the others, it's not going to be D because there's not a middle peak. And then again, you had to it has that difference in terms of how it moved at from R to W, right? So good. That's number 8. Let's look at this one, number 9. Item 9 refers to the following diagram of a coastline. Which of the following features is not shown on the diagram? A, cliff; B, headland; C, bayhead beach; and then D, wave cut platform. Which one do you think is not seen on this diagram? Let's go through while you're telling me which one we're not seeing. So we have the cliff. So this is the cliff here, right? We have the headlands, right? So the headland. We have the bayhead beach in the center here. But what we are not seeing is our wave cut platform, right? So that's the one that we're not seeing there, the wave cut platform, right? Good. So we understand why that one is D. I'm just sending a reminder in all of the things. Right. Yeah, I also your message as well, Mia. Right. And you all could share the link as well, because I know we had the little time difference there. Right. Lovely question. A lot of calculations for y'all to do for this one. Hopefully y'all remember longitude and latitude calculations, right? But it says item 10 to 12 refers to the following world map, and there's a lot of longitude values, there's a lot of latitude values, and there are 2 locations. So we have St. Petersburg and New Orleans, and then there's a shaded area. What is the time what time is it in New Orleans when it is 10 p.m. on Monday in St. Petersburg, right? So in New Orleans, it is 10 p.m., right? So have a look at it. Let's work it out. So we have in New Orleans, right? So we have this location here, and then we have St. Petersburg, right? And it is saying that it is 10 p.m. Monday. Let me write that a bit clearer for you all, right? So it is 10 p.m. Monday in St. Petersburg, and you have to calculate the time in New Orleans. But there is a difference between them, right? And in order to calculate, what do we usually divide by in order to calculate? Or do we usually have to divide by when we want to calculate time and longitude? But while you're all typing that, let me work out the values for you all in the meantime, right? So we have this, right, where we have St. Petersburg at 30 degrees, and then we have the 120, right? So you have to find out the difference in degrees from 0 to 30 and then 0 to 120. So what we have to do is 0 to 30, and that 0 is the prime meridian, is 30 degrees. The 0 to the 120 is 120 degrees. And in order to calculate the time, we would say that 120 divided by, and here's the thing, the earth rotates 360 degrees in 24 hours. So that means it rotates 15 degrees for every hour. So what we will do is take that 120 divided by 15, and we will get 8, right? So far we have 8 hours. But then the question is, right, what do we do? Do we add the time or do we minus the time? What do you all think? Do we add the time or do we minus the time for here? Going east, we add the time. Going west, we minus the time. So if it's 10 p.m., we have to minus that 8 hours, right? Good. And 10 p.m. minus 8 hours, which one do you all think it would be? 12 a.m. on Sunday, A, B, 12 p.m. on Sunday, C, 12 a.m. on Monday, or D, 12 p.m. on Monday? What do you all think? A, B, C, or D? Which one do we think it will be? Dun, dun, dun. 10 p.m. minus that 8 hours, that would be 2 p.m. on Monday, right? So good, that'll be the time there. Then it says, what is the major line of latitude close to New Orleans? What is the major line of latitude close to New Orleans? And it has A, equator, B, the Antarctic Circle, C, the Tropic of Cancer, or D, the Tropic of Capricorn, right? So let's go to New Orleans, right? So tell me, what do you all think? What would be that line of latitude? And that's the longitude. So what would be that line of latitude? Look at it there. Look at where it's located. It's almost close to that 30. And which one do we think it would be? A, B, C, or D? The equator is 0. So we can take out that equator one time because it's too far from the equator, right? It is not the Antarctic Circle because that's all the way up, right? And then the question is it C, Tropic of Cancer, or D, Tropic of Capricorn? Is it above or below the equator? New Orleans, is it above or below the equator? What do we think? Above or below the equator? This is the equator line here. It's above. So because it is above, then this answer will be the Tropic of Cancer for number 11, right? Good. Number 12, the shaded area on the map represents part of the, and then it has A, tropics, B, Arctic zone, C, Mediterranean, D, temperate zone, right? And it has the shaded area here between 30 and 60. And between 30 and 60 degrees, whether it's northern or southern hemisphere, that will be our temperate zone, right? So that's the answer for number 12. Right, good. Let's go to number 13. So we have this image and it says item 13 refers to the following map of Central America. And it has X. Which country is labeled X on the map? A, Belize, B, Mexico, C, Guyana, or D, Jamaica? What do we think? Which one is X? A with a question mark. Yeah, so it is Belize, right? So good. Right. Lovely question. Following up, let's look at number 14. Yeah, Belize, right? Item 14 refers to the following diagram of a weather chart. We have Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, after that, you definitely learned it, right? So we have these arrows going towards Trinidad, and this is representing the system, right? And it says which or what weather system shown on the map is affecting Trinidad. A, ITCZ, B, anticyclone, C, cold front, or D, tropical wave. What do we think for this one? And the arrows are the trade winds. So because the arrows are the trade winds, it is telling us that we have the northeast trade winds and the southeast trade winds blowing towards Trinidad and Tobago, and that is our ITCZ, right? The cold front blows from this direction and the tropical waves have a different location, right? Good. A bit blurry, bear with me. Which of the following measurements are used to calculate relative humidity? A, temperature and rainfall, B, temperature and pressure, C, wet bulb and dry bulb temperature, or D, maximum and minimum temperatures? And the answer for that one is, in terms of it, it is the wet bulb and the dry bulb temperature, right? So because it's relative humidity. Right, let's look at this question. Item 16 refers to the table below, which gives the average monthly rainfall figures for country A. What is the median rainfall in millimeters for the period? Now, this is not an average question, right? It's not an average, so we're not adding up all and then minusing it, right? It is a median. And to get the median, you have to arrange the values. So we have 71, 46, 46, 58, 119, and 165. And what we want to do is we have to arrange that. So I'll arrange it in ascending order. So we could go 46, 46, 58, 71, 119, and then 165. And the median should be the middle value. But if we want to split this equally into two, we can't because there are two middle values, 58 and 71. So to get that median value, we will say 58 plus 71 divided by 2, right? So we will say 129 divided by 2, which will give us 64.5. So for 16, the answer is C. Right? We all good with that? We're like, yeah, we got that with the median value. We know the difference between the average and the median. You probably have a math, so you know, Mia. You know, you always have your maths calculations that I never remember, or your physics calculations. But try and order it in in that ascending or descending order, but you should get the same value in the middle. Right. Zooming out a bit, right. Item 17 and 18 refers to the following diagram of a river valley. The feature labeled M is A. What do we think M is? A levee, B terrace, C waterfall, or D floodplain? What do we think? M is this little feature on the side here, and then we have our next feature here, which is N. What is M? Right, so M is the terrace, right? And how do we know it's the terrace? Whenever you see that sort of like step-like thing, that's how it will look in real life. It's giving like that sort of step-like feature, like that elevated side, where you know all of that material built up, right? So good. But look at the follow-up question, and we're talking about this entire area here. Which of the following feature forms the area labeled N? We have A levee, B plateau, C floodplain, D alluvial fan. Which one do we think is N? If M is the terrace, then N is good. N is the floodplain. It's just this entire area in the center here, right? So make sure you know that difference between the terrace and the floodplain. Right, so this one, not too bad. You can have to like think about it a bit. But it says items 19 and 20 are based on the following graph, which shows the relative value for exports of primary and manufactured products from 4 Caribbean territories in 1 year. Right, and it's a different type of graph, but do not let it throw you off, right? Everything in this graph is going to add to this 100. So anywhere in the shaded area is going to be primary, and in order to get how much is the secondary, you just say 100 minus that value, or the other way around, right? So don't let this sort of graph, right? Don't let this sort of graph throw you off. For which of the following territories was the value of manufactured product exported greater than 75% of the total exports? So we're looking at the shaded area, right? And without calculating, if we just had to visually look at this, right? Which one do we think had more than 75% of total exports? Careful. Manufactured would be the thick dark line. Look at it again. More than 75% of the total exports. manufactured products? How much would be manufactured? How much would be, let me zoom in a bit for you. How much would be, right? How much would be primary products, right, in Guyana? How much would be primary products in Guyana? Look at the dashed line. From here all the way to down here, right? Look at how much the primary is versus how much the manufactured product is. So that's why you want to be careful with this, because they made a difference between manufactured products and primary, right? So Guyana has more primary products, right? But if you look at which other island has most manufactured products, that would be Barbados, right? So that's how you have to be a bit right. So you see how that one is a bit of a trick there, because you'll just look at it. This one was the primary product, this one was the secondary. So then this one will be Barbados, right? But just careful, because there was another question where they asked about who had the higher primary product. Oh, maybe that's the follow-up question, and I'm just like talking about the answer. Because look at number 20. In which of the following territories was there the greatest difference in value between the primary products and the manufactured products? And if we look at it, we could see now how Guyana has such a big difference between primary and manufactured products, because their primary is about 75%, and not 75, 95%, and then the manufactured would be about 5%, right? So in terms of that, this one now would have been Guyana. So just one thing I want to advise y'all, careful, right? Read the questions, right? Good. So this one is it's a bit dark for y'all, right? But it says which layer of the earth is structure is labeled X, right? And that is actually the mantle they had somewhere around here, right? And that one would have been the mantle for this question. I don't know if you all remember this from like the paper twos, but this was the same map they used in one of the paper twos, right? And this says items 2 and 3 refers to the following map of crustal plates, and the arrows are indicating the plate movement. It says the plate labeled 1 is A, the Cocos plate, B, the Pacific plate, C, the American plate, or D, the Caribbean plate. Which one do we think is this one here? If we linked our plates as yet. Right, so good. This one was the Cocos plate, right? Good. A or Cocos plate. What type of boundary is formed at X? We have A, divergent, B, transform, C, convergent, or D, constructive. When we see that when we see this triangle here, what sort of plate margin are we talking about at X? Where we see that line with that triangle, would it be A, B, C, or D? Yeah, it's a convergent margin, right? Because that's a subduction zone, right? So it's telling you that that's how the plates are being subducted, right? So whenever you see that sort of line with those triangles, that's the subduction margins. And then you just know that that is a convergent margin where the two plates are moving towards each other. Right. Number 24. Subduction occurs at A, mid-ocean ridges, B, divergent plate boundaries, C, transform plate boundaries, or D, convergent plate boundaries. What do we think? Subduction. What type of plate margin are we talking about? We know it's not mid-ocean ridge for sure, right? So this one is convergent, right? Good. A river that is wide and shallow and has bars and islands, right? So it's wide and shallow, so it's giving lower cost, and bars and islands around which the river flows is described as A, flooded, B, braided, C, turbulent, or D, meandering. So it's a wide channel. It's saying that you have all of these bars and then the water is flowing around them. What type of river channel is that? What's this one? Right, good, a braided river channel. Number 26, quite simple, but you need to read a bit, right? Which of the following correctly describes the relationship between weather and climate? Climate refers A to the conditions of the atmosphere, whereas weather mainly refers to the seasons. We know that's incorrect one time. Weather refers to only cloud cover and winds, while climate refers to only temperature and rainfall. Incorrect, because they both have the same elements. Climate is a changeable everyday occurrence, while weather refers to changes in the atmosphere over a longer period of time. Or weather is the day to day changes in the atmosphere, while climate is the average conditions of the atmosphere over many years. So, what do we think between C and D? What do y'all think between C and D? Yeah, D, right? Because weather is short term, climate is long term. Excellent. Let's go to this one. Item 27 refers to rainfall and temperature graph that shows the mean monthly temperature of country P. Right? So it says which of the following types of climate does the information in the diagram represent? So is it A, hot, B, equatorial, C, tropical marine, or D, tropical continental? What do we think? High rainfall, high temperature. Uniformly high rainfall, uniformly high temperature. Do we think it's hot desert? Do we think it's equatorial? Yeah, definitely equatorial, right? Uniformly high temperature throughout, uniformly adequate rainfall throughout the year. That's definitely equatorial, right? So remember your graphs, you need to know them, right? So let's go with number 28. So we'll do this one first. The slow downhill movement of debris and soil under the influence of gravity may be referred or may be best described as A, soil creep, B, landslide, C, soil erosion, or D, mass wasting. What do we think? I'm going to zoom a bit so I could be able to see a bit better as well. Yeah, soil creep definitely, slow downhill movement, gentle slope. Number 29. Which constituent of soil contributes to the black layer seen in some soil profiles? A, humus, B, iron oxide, C, parent material, D, inorganic minerals. What do we think? That black layer on the top of the soil, where we have all of that material broken down. It's like that nutrient layer. It is, right. Oh no, right. So a humus layer, right? So we'll go to 31 and 32 and then scroll down for 30, right? When magma emerges on the surface, it leads to the formation of A, sills, B, dikes, C, lacoliths, or D, lava flows. So we have magma on the surface. What do we think? Which one is this one? It would be DD lava flows, right? Because all of these are intrusive features. So they would be formed by magma themselves, and only the lava flow is the only thing on the surface, right? Good. Which of the following factors does not influence the temperature of a location on the Earth's surface? A, gravity, B, latitude, C, cloud cover, or D, distance from the sea? Does not, meaning three of them will and one will not. It would be, it sounded like I'm saying B, but it's not B. It would be, what do y'all think for this one? Hmm. Go by deduction. It will be gravity, right? Because the latitude is distance from the equator, which will affect temperature. Cloud cover would affect the incoming, right? So the incoming heat from the atmosphere as well as how much comes out, right? And then you have distance from the sea with the wind and the sea breeze versus the continent versus the ocean, right? So good. Yeah, I realize that there's a little lag there, so sometimes when I'm waiting, I have to wait for you all. Number 30, the slow downward movement of water and minerals, right, in, in solution from the surface through the pores of the soil is referred to as A, leaching, B, infiltration, C, percolation, or D, true flow. What do we think? The slow downward movement of water in solution from the surface through the pores of the soil. What do we think? Let me see if that helps you a bit. When it has that mention of the surface, what do you think they're talking about? Yeah, so careful, right? This one will be infiltration, right? So leaching is not that. Leaching has to do with minerals dissolved by the water moving downwards. Percolation, it is that slow vertical movement of water, but it says from the surface, right? So when you're like reading the questions, underline the main parts, because remember, once it has that surface, it's telling us that it's seeping in right there, and all of the pore spaces, it's slipping in and soaking into there, right? Good. Number 33. Item 33. Oh, and I'll give you all a note about this one. Item 33 refers to the following diagram of the hydrological cycle. In the diagram, X refers to A, percolation, B, evaporation, C, transpiration, or D, precipitation. What do we think? What's X? I thought I was going to trick you because you all see that there's a similar question to this, but it's not talking about transpiration, right? So you have to be careful. So this one is transpiration, but they could test any other part, right? So good. We'll do 37, 34 and 37 side by side. What is the what is the correct order of stages in the development of a hurricane? A, tropical disturbance, storm, depression, hurricane. B, tropical depression, disturbance, storm, hurricane. C, tropical storm, depression, disturbance, hurricane. Or D, tropical disturbance, depression, storm, or hurricane. What do y'all think? This one you had to like spend some time reading it. What do you think? Yeah, this one was D, right? Because it starts off as a tropical disturbance, just like a disturbance in the atmosphere. As it's starting to build momentum, it will develop into a tropical depression. That's not a depression, right? Because remember, there are also mid latitudinal depressions that affect like Britain and those places. This is the tropical depression. Then it boosts up into a tropical storm because the heat from the ocean and the winds are fueling it, and then it develops into a hurricane, right? So that is the order that you go with, and each one would have sustained speeds that differ. Number 37. Which of the following statements about the greenhouse effect is true? A, it results from increased globalization. B, it makes weather more unpredictable. C, it lowers the temperature on mountain tops. Or D, it is a natural process that warms the Earth's surface. What do we think? D, right? Yeah. Because remember, there's always that trick, right? Because the greenhouse effect is natural, but it becomes worse because of things relating to human activities. Yes, it does make the weather more unpredictable, but remember, it starts off, right? Careful, it starts off as a natural process because it's a greenhouse effect that is going to keep the earth from getting too hot or too cold naturally. right? So it does that naturally. And then because it has so many human activities, because there are so many greenhouse gases, then it causes an increase in greenhouse effect. But it is natural, it's been there before humans have started to impact the climate and weather, right? So careful. We'll do 35, 38, 39. 35. Which of the following drainage patterns is illustrated in the diagram? A radial, B parallel, C trellis, D dendritic. Yeah, because it says a natural thing there, because that's how the greenhouse effect is. It's very natural, and then it's increased or exuberated, right? It's radial because it's radiating from that central point, right? Good. Number 38. Which is the most immediate consequence of global warming in the Caribbean, right? That's the key thing. A, rise in sea level, B, bleaching of corals, C, longer dry season, or D, loss of biodiversity in the Caribbean. What do we think? Wait, was that A for that? Wait, let me see. What do we think? Right, so rising sea levels, right? No, this one is rising sea levels. Why do you think it's a problem? What do we know about the Caribbean islands? We have low-lying Caribbean islands. So a lot of Caribbean islands are very close to the sea level, right? We're right above it. So think about like all of the islands that because the sea is getting deeper. Remember the poles, the ice is melting and it's redistributed around the earth. So yeah, there is a longer dry season, but that will more affect like agriculture and economic. The main issue for the Caribbean is the rise in sea level because there's a lot of low-lying Caribbean islands. And the prediction is that if the waters get deeper, then look at the impact it has on a lot of the coastal areas already, right? 39. Atolls appear as reefs that are A, ring shaped with a lagoon in the center, B, found in the tropical coastal intertidal zone, C, close to the shore and separated by a shallow lagoon, or D, separated from the shore by several kilometers of water. Which one is the atoll or atoll, however you pronounce it? Yeah, A, so that will be the answer for this one, right? Good. Scrolling, right. Number 36. I know I'm going side by side, but I'm just trying to like have it zoom so we can edit. Number 36. Which of the following statement explains why snow may be present on mountain tops in Africa near the equator, right? And remember, you're not limiting the image because Africa is a continent, it's big, right? So why do the mountain tops have snow? A, jet streams move cold air towards the equator. B, the sun's rays are oblique on the mountain tops. C, low pressure systems at the equator lower the temperature. Or D, the mountain tops are cold due to the elevation of these mountains. Yeah, this one is D, right? Because what do we know? The change is 6.5 degrees Celsius per one, let me change that, per 1,000 meter or 1 kilometer. And as you go up in altitude, you have that decrease in temperature. So because the mountains, yeah, are so high, it's gonna have snow on top, right? So good. Number 40. Flooding can be reduced by, reduced is the keyword, A, soil erosion, B, urbanization, C, deforestation, or D, reforestation. Yep, definitely, because the others are actually causing flooding, they are actually not reducing it. Good. I'll have to zoom in and out for this one. Items 41 and 42 refer to the following diagram. So we have this diagram. It is showing basically our source on top. We have X, we have a channel, right? And then let's scroll. What erosional process is occurring in the riverbed shown in the diagram? A, attrition, B, solution, C, corrosion, or D, hydraulic action. What do we think for this one? On the riverbed, there's a lot of load there. Look at the image. It's showing us the load. So which one is that? And it's like dragging on the riverbed. Right, so it's gonna be C, corrosion or abrasion. Attrition, attrition is where you have these pebbles and they're smashing against each other. They're becoming rounded and smaller, right? And then hydraulic action is the shear force of the river water hitting against the banks and bed of the river. Solution, the materials have been dissolved and it's moving. But with this image, those rocks that you're seeing to the bottom there, they're going to grind along the riverbed in corrosion or abrasion, right? Good. Number 42. Which of the following landforms is located at X and it has A, gorge, B, valley, C, plunge pool, or D, interlocking spur? What do you think X is? X is all the way on top here, right? So what is X? Gorge, valley, plunge pool, or interlocking spur? Look at the image. What is this showing us here? It is somewhat the valley side, but what do we see when we see this sort of image? Think about it. And it looks like this on the image when you draw it. Those are interlocking spurs, right? So this one is the interlocking spur in the upper course. It is showing the valley floor. You have the valley, but it's not showing the gorge, right? It's not showing a plunging pool because that's again not the waterfalls there. But you see, when you see that particular image, that's how an interlocking spur looks. So think of like a zip and how it sort of creates that pattern. That's what happens with it, right? So good. 41 is our interlocking spur. Let's go with 43. Zoom in a bit for myself as well. Right? Which of the following statements about soils is generally true? A, the depth increases as moisture content increases. B, the acidity increases as the humus content decreases. C, the fertility decreases as the humus content increases. Or D, the acidity increases as the moisture content decreases. What do we think for this one? What do we think? So we have someone saying B and then someone saying D. So this one is D, right? Because let's talk about it, right? And I know your chem students are going to enjoy this, right? But remember, I'm not the chem person, and that's you, right? But what happens is when the acidity goes up, right? You have all of those basically, yes, soils are stress you out, right? So basically, what happens is that you have the concentration of hydrogen ions being dissolved in the soil, right? And you have that to basically, yeah, that increase acidity of the soil. So as the moisture content decreases, the acidity increases, right? It's like this whole process there, but yeah, soils are like that part there, like, yeah, I'm gonna learn off that answer because it's like, what is that? Right, number 44, and I'm just going to scroll a bit. Number 44 refers to the following diagrams, which shows locations labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'd have chosen B or C? Yeah. Well, remember, it can be C because if the fertility decrease with the humus content increasing, that would be the other way around. So the fertility will increase as the humus content increases, right? Number 44. Which of the following locations is an urban center most likely to be found? So A1, B2, C3, D4. You're hitting you. Uh, Y'all are gonna have to be like, yeah, it's tomorrow. Is your paper one? So y'all are gonna have to be like, yeah, lock in. Right. So where would y'all put the urban area? We have these areas here. Where do you think we'll find an urban center? One, two, three, or four? Hmm. Where would you all find an urban center? Think about it. In one, we have that sort of railway area there. In two, we have this open flatland area. Three, there's highland area. And then four, you have the bauxite reserve. So where do you all think would be ideal for an urban area? So two would actually be ideal, right? Because one, you have flat land. Number two, you have the road, right? So careful though. It's so A, yeah, you have the road, but look at the space, how small it is compared to where two is. Right, so that was the difference between there. You're definitely not putting it in three because that's too high elevated, and four, that's the bauxite reserve, so that's gonna have that factories and stuff. So then A is a bit too small, so you will put it at two because of that wide open area, right? And it is coastal land, so it's flat because the sea is right there, and the land close to the coastline is flat, and then you have the transport lines there as well, right? So this one is B. We think we understand why is B? I'm just like, yeah, remember geography has a lot of planning in it as well. So yeah. Right. Number 45. The rate of natural increase of a population is determined by A, birth rate and death rate, B, birth rate and migration, C, death rate and emigration, or D, birth rate and immigration. What do we think? Which one is on natural increase? How do we calculate that one? You have to be sure with it. Yeah, it's A, right? Birth rate and death rate, right? So birth rate minus death rate could cause a natural increase or decrease depending on which one is higher. You'll know I have to be looking for my mouse all the time. Right. So number 46. So item 46 refers to the following population pyramid of country X. And it says in 2020, this is our population pyramid, males, females, the percentage in each cohort. Which of the following statements is true about this population or this country's population? A, the birth rate is high. B, the death rate is high. C, the dependency ratio is high. Or D, life expectancy is increasing. What do you think? Is the birth rate high? No, it's not, because look how low these values are, so the birth rate is not high. Is the death rate high? Nope, because look how high up there is, and there is a significant amount of the population. Is the dependency ratio high? Maybe. Is the life expectancy decreasing? Watch that and tell me. The life expectancy goes up to 100. Between C or D, what do we think? What do you all think between C or D? Y'all are like the life expectancy is decreasing. What do y'all think? Think about how many elderly people it have, and think about how many young persons it has. What do you think that's gonna do to the dependency ratio? So it's C, right? because it's C, because the high amount of the elderly cohort. Let me zoom for you all to see, right? Look how many elderly persons there are over the 65 plus, right? So that means that they are all dependent on the economically active, right? And then even though the 0 to 15 is not big, it's still that amount. So if you look at it visually and you try to measure it, think about to this area and then think about this area. All of these persons depend on this part of the population, right? So that's why that one is C. For that one, the dependency ratio is high. The life expectancy, they would have to give you a bit more, but it goes all the way up to 100. Right, let me see if I could work this so we could do these six at the same time, right? So 47, right? Which of the following conditions is a problem, right? I can't remember which country it was, but we looked at that country. I remember it. It was one of those more developed countries. I cannot remember it offhand. Right. Which of the following conditions is a problem in urban areas of the Caribbean? Right? A, shortage of labor. B, absence of paved roads. C, inadequate housing stock. Or D, inadequate shopping facilities. What do you all think? Actually, let me zoom a bit because if I'm not seeing it properly, you're not seeing it properly either. What do y'all think for this one on this side here? Yeah, it's inadequate housing stock, right? We know the Caribbean doesn't have a shortage of labor, right? It has the paved roads. It doesn't have a limited amount of shopping facilities. It is that inadequate housing because the population is growing. We know in the urban area you have natural increase through the birth rate, the death rate, and migration. So it has inadequate housing. 48. Which of the following is the most serious problem hindering rapid agricultural development in the Caribbean? Right? So they're really going with the most serious, right? A, lack of capital. B, rapid soil erosion. C, lack of crop variety. Or D, a high incidence of crop disease. What do we think? Which creating an issue for the Caribbean for agriculture? Okay, let's go through, right? So since we had D, let's go. Do we think that disease is one of the biggest things in a lot of the Caribbean islands? It's fairly the same around the world because while, yeah, we have that tropical marine climate, a lot of countries with the coldness, they have their issues as well, right? A lack of crop variety. A lot of countries in the Caribbean do have a certain amount of diversification, but again, nope, right? Rapid soil erosion, yes, it is a big problem. But the biggest problem is the lack of capital because agriculture is not, we say it's not as attractive as before to attract that foreign direct investment. So it's not going to get that, especially when a lot of Caribbean islands have manufacturing, they have tourism, right? There's all of these service industries that are coming, right? So the lack of capital is the issue, right? So it's what's happening is that lack of capital is one of the biggest problems in the Caribbean. We understand that? I'm saying you what? And I was like, because right, and we do import a lot, right? And the reason why we import a lot, well, is because we don't get the investment into the agriculture. So there is that issue. We have very, very high food import bill. But we understand why this one is A, because it, even if money is get coming in from investment, think about it, a lot of Caribbean islands are pushing towards manufacturing and was any other form of secondary or even tertiary, right? So that's the issue with that. Let's do 51 as it's on the side there, and then I'll scroll, right? Which of the following statements, right? Because you all overthink it. Remember, some of geography is a lot of geo, but you also have to think about what's going on in the world as well. It's why, like, you hear a lot of geo people are like, geography is the world, so you kind of have to like, oh yeah, that's what's going on in my country right now. Number 51. Which of the following statements is true about the sugar cane industry in the Caribbean? Right? So we are talking about the sugar cane industry. A, the industry remains a top revenue earner. B, there has been a decline in the cost of production. C, the industry remains the largest employer in the labor force. Or D, most of the sugar produced is exported to foreign markets. Is it the top revenue earner? Nope. There has been a decline in the production, but not the production cost. It is still expensive. It is not the largest employer. So the answer is D for this one. Whatever is made tends to be exported to foreign markets, right? So yeah, it was D for that one. Right. Good. Let's do 49 on the side here. The removal of preferential trade agreements impacts Caribbean traditional export crops because such agreements, right? And we're talking about traditional export crops, right? So those main things like bananas and sugar and those things, right? A, and we're talking about removing those preferential trade agreements. A, it stimulates policies. B, it encourages competition. C, it encourages climate change. Or D, it increases global market shares. What do you all think? We remove all of those preferential trade agreements. So not like those banana wars when we were talking about, right? So yeah, it's gonna encourage competition because a lot of Caribbean islands relied on those preferential agreements. So if you don't have that preferential agreement, you don't have that guaranteed sale or that guaranteed market, right? Then there's no longer that sort of protection there because there are going to be other countries around the world that are going to mass produce it at a lower cost, right? So that is an issue. Number 52 on this side here. Which of the following factors has most hindered the growth of the food processing industry in the Caribbean? A, market demand. B, access to raw materials. C, cost of energy resources. Or D, supply of unskilled labor. What do we think? The food processing industry. Right, access to raw materials, because again, a lot of Caribbean islands are small, the farm sizes are small, there's a lot of seasonal crops, there's water shortages, there's an unreliable supply of water, there's all of those external market forces, right? But again, the raw material is that biggest thing, right? Number 53. In peasant farming in the Caribbean, the maintenance of the organic content in the soil can be ensured by. So we want to do something to make sure the organic content is there. But remember, it says peasant farming, right? A, rotation of crops. B, burning of vegetation. C, application of manures. Or D, the use of chemical fertilizers. What do we think for this one? What are you putting for this one? Think about it. How do we protect them in peasant farming? Or how do we maintain the organic content? Right. So it's definitely not using fertilizers, right? So I could see why you'll think rotation of crops because it means that you're pulling different nutrients at different times, not the burden of vegetation because that actually, it does add some nutrients, but it doesn't maintain it, right? So it's between A or C, but the answer is actually C because you want to, what the question says, maintain the organic content, right? And you do that by using, they use those natural fertilizers, not those chemical fertilizers, right? So that one was a C. Last two on this paper question sheet, I mean. 50. Which of the following activities is considered a poor farming practice? A. Overgrazing. B. Crop rotation. C. Strip cropping. Or D. Contour plowing. A poor farming practice. What do you think for this one? Yeah, overgrazing, right? Because when you overgraze, one, it's stripping the vegetation cover, it's compacting the soil when the animals walk on it. There's a lot of soil erosion and it's lowering the fertility, right? Good. Number 54. And I made the spelling change there for A. Which of the following is a major impact of urban sprawl? A. Traffic congestion. B. Increase in open spaces. C. Reduce risk of flooding. Or D. Migration from rural areas. Yeah, go ahead. You can tell me the answer in the meantime while Hassan is like typing his message. Because there's a bit of lag between me and when I'm seeing your messages. But it's really bad by me. I should have known today would have a lot of rain. What do you all think? A major impact of urban sprawl. What do you all think for this one for 54? I believe they, I don't hold me to it because this is a live, right? But I usually know they default the mark. Or I believe they give it to you or something like that. Or sometimes I know in the invigilator rooms they correct it. But they won't like it. Yeah, so usually that's what they do. Because I know sometimes in the paper twos that's what they do. So you cannot just get the mark. So then if I corrected that to traffic congestion, what do you all think 54 would be? Provided it's traffic congestion and not tragic congestion, eh? Because that was like, that would be very tragic. That was my joke there. But okay, what do y'all think for 54? It will be A, right? To traffic congestion, right? Because the urban sprawl, that urban area is spreading into the rural area, right? At least I got the delayed laugh, right? I got the delayed laugh. Right. So good. That one was A. Right, let's look at these 355. Which of the following is a primary sector activity? We have A, canning tomatoes, B, conducting museum tours, C, designing carnival costumes, or D, blasting boulders in a quarry. What do y'all think? Which one is a primary sector activity? Definitely not canning tomatoes, because that's going to be secondary. Conducting a museum tour, definitely not. Not designing carnival costumes, so it will be blasting boulders in a quarry. Remember, the primary industry also has the extractive industry as well, right? Good. Number 56. Which of the following is classed as a tertiary industry? A, fishing, B, tourism, C, oil refining, or D, food processing. What do we think? 56, A, B, C, or D. Right? B, tourism. 58. Which of the following actions would a government most likely take to influence investors to locate a new factory in a rural area? So it's a rural area and they want to build up development. So they want investors to invest a factory in the rural area. A, establish schools to educate the young children. B, import all the new technology for the factory. C, pave the roads and provide a reliable water supply. Or D, instruct the banks to provide low interest loans. What do you think? What do you do? Because we want that factory in the rural area for sure. Right? Good. You would pave the road access. So this one is B, right? So you would pave the road because what would it do? It would be accessibility, right? So the roadways would have accessibility. And then when you have a water supply, remember a lot of the production, processing, and factories need water and those things, right? So you're building up the amenities in that area. So when you pave the road, and you give that water supply, then yeah, they'll be more attracted to go there. Right? So let's go 57, 58, 59. 57. Which of the following factors is or are most likely to pose a serious threat to the rivers of the Caribbean? A, landslides, B, lumbering, C, factory waste, or D, fishing practices. So, and that will be a threat to rivers in the Caribbean. What do y'all think? Yeah, it will be city factory waste, right? Because a lot of the factory waste is very close to waterways or it's dumped directly into the rivers, right? So that is a big issue in the Caribbean. 59. Which of the following factors exert the greatest influence on tourism, right? A, climate, B, coral reefs, C, historical sites, or D, tropical forests? And all of them affect tourism, but which one has the most important impact on tourism? What do you all think for this one? What's tourism all about? Think about like traditional tourism, huh? A, climate, B, is A actually, not the A, I don't know. It's A, right? The climate, the coral reefs, the historical side, the tropical forest, yeah. But the main thing with tourism is the climate, right? Number 60. Which of the following conditions is most likely to result from tropical deforestation, right? A, loss of flora. B, increase in fauna, which is the animals. C, increase lumbering. Or D, increase in groundwater. Which one is most likely to? What do you all think? Most likely to result from tropical depression. Deforestation, not depression. My gosh. Think about it, right? If you have tropical deforestation, you're clearing the land. That actually reduces underground water because what happens is that when the rain falls, right? When the rain falls, what happens is that the soil is cleared, right? There's less interception, less infiltration, more surface runoff, more flooding, and less water intercept or going infiltrating into the soil. Increased lumbering is, you have to watch the wording, right? Because it says an impact of tropical deforestation. So deforestation could be a cause or could be caused by increased lumbering, but because it says result, we're looking at a consequence. So think again between A and B. What do we think? It will be A, right? Because the loss of flora. So you're losing all of those plants and vegetation. You're losing all of the trees. So the deforestation is the cause, and the flora is the loss of flora is the consequence, right? So yeah, so read each one individually, yeah? So make sure you'll get enough rest and drink your water and eat your breakfast and everything before you'll go, so that you know you wouldn't be just browsing through them, right? But we're all good with this paper. We're good. We're up to doing another one. You'll have to let me know. Tell me what y'all think. You said nope, you don't want to do another one. You'll just want to do one paper and that's it. Like, we hoping for the best tomorrow. Some questions where I'll catch you. You're answering my first question. Sorry. Y'all know I ask like multiple questions, and then I ask multiple questions and then wonder where your response is for, right? But yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing with these questions, right? So you have to be like so careful when you're reading it, right? You have to be like so careful with it, right? So let's have a look at this paper. Let me zoom a bit, right? Because it's a bit small, right? Good. We'll see what the time, because I know some of you all told me you have to study and all those kind of things. And I know you all like to go study. But we'll see. Right. So look at this question, right? Oh. Okay. I heard you. Number 1. A scale of 1 to 20,000 on a map would indicate what? So let me just change my colors here. Is that what we're on right now, or there's something else? Because I doesn't know what you're talking about. Y'all have to remember my technological competence. Oh my gosh. As Azaria and I just here having a conversation and then y'all just looking at the answers. Is that the website? Okay, let me pay attention before I get confused, right? But I'm changing my color. Give me a second. Let me zoom a bit. My eyesight is just like your own. Okay, I'll check it out. Right. 1 to 20,000 on a map would indicate that A, 1 centimeter on the map represents 20,000 kilometers underground. B, 1 unit on the map represents 20,000 units underground. C, 1 centimeter on the map represents 20,000 meters underground. Or D, the map is 20,000 times larger than the ground it represents. So let me ask you something, because I saw A so far, right? Do we find A is more specific or very, very specific? Given that they didn't give us like a unit or something. Or what do we think, what do we think something is would be better for this one? So I have A so far. What do y'all think for this one? We sticking with that A? A question mark? Read B and tell me what you all think. 1 unit on the map represents 20,000 units on the ground, right? So this one was a bit more vague, right? Because that's what it means. 1 unit on the map represents 20,000 units on the ground, right? So good. We understand that, right? And why A was too specific? Right. I just want to do items 2 to 4 refer to the following map of the Caribbean region, right? Good. It says what island or which island, y'all are just mixing up my subject pronouns all the time. Which island is located at 16 degrees north, 61 degrees west, right? And it has A, Trinidad, right? B, Barbados, C, Dominica, or D, St. Lucia. I cannot say because the unit one said that there were nine, the unit twos had their own already, and they said there were 9 or 10 new questions. So study, right? So what do we think? We have A, Trinidad, B, Barbados, C, Dominica, D, St. Lucia. So let's go with all well, I was gonna say rulers, which you all would use. 16 degrees north will be somewhere around here, 61 degrees west. So when you go to Dominica and you put that X and you go across, so this one is Dominica, right? That was the answer for number 2. Let's do number 4 and then I'll scroll to number 3. And right. I wanted to be able to see the bottom. An aeroplane leaves Port of Spain. So it is leaving Port of Spain here, right? And it is going to Kingston, Jamaica. So it is going here. In which general direction should our plane fly? A, northwest, B, southeast, C, southwest, or D, northwest? What do you all think? We have our airplane here, and it has to fly all the way to Kingston, Jamaica. What direction is that? Northwest, right? Good. So don't let it throw you off and they're like, oh my gosh, where's the starting point? Where's the ending point? On your paper, draw your X and draw your lines to connect it, right? Good. Not too bad compared to the previous paper. Which city is located 100 kilometers from Santo Domingo? We have A, San Juan, B, Kingston, C, Montego Bay, or D, Port-au-Prince, right? And it says 100 kilometers from Santo Domingo. Let me find that with my eyes as well, right? And then it says 1,000 kilometers. So we are looking from here to here. If you can't average with your mind, take your little sheet of paper, draw it out, right? That 1,000 meter, look at the scale distance, and that should take us all the way good to Montego Bay as that 1,000 kilometers, right? If you can't average with your geography eyes, as we say, take a piece of paper and just measure the scale, which started at the 0 and went all the way to the 1,000, right? Good. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. Not too bad. Let's look at 5 and 7. Right, a bit different because it's not median this time. Right, which is the average annual temperature in this location? How do we find average annual temperature? Because we looked at the median just now, but how do we find average annual temperature? Oh, it's a bit small for yours. It's going to be a bit small for me as well. I'll work it out for you, but how do you find average annual temperature? For the persons who say A and B, what did you all do to add it up? Or to get that? I gave away part of it. To get the average annual temperature, you would add up all of these, right? Yeah, I was trying to ask you and then I gave it away. You add up all of the temperature and then you divide it by 12. So when you add up all of them, right, you ideally should have gotten 314 divided by the 12, which will give us, right, 26.2. So for this one, it would be B, right? So good, add all the values and divide by the number of all the values, and it's 12 months, so 12 years, right? 6. Which of the, oh no, read wrong question, I'm reading, wow. The rainfall pattern on the table indicates, so now we're not looking at the temperature, we are looking at these values. I'm just going to erase the 2 things here. We're looking at these values now for rainfall, right? You just look at the number. Well, I mean, you kind of have to A, rainfall occurs throughout the year. B, most of the rainfall occurs at the beginning of the year. C, there are small amounts of rainfall throughout the year. Or D, there's little variation in the rainfall from month to month. And yeah, y'all are correct. There's rainfall occurring throughout the year. Most of it does not occur at the beginning of the year, because look at these values down here, and it's not small numbers, and there are definitely not little variations, because 103, 93, 88, right? So the lowest around there is 87 and the highest is 260, so they're very close to each other, right? Good. The type of climate experienced at this location may be described as A, tropical continental, B, tropical marine, C, equatorial, or D, savanna. What do y'all think for this one? Because we just looked at one which was equatorial. So what do we think for this one? Right, so this one is the tropical marine, and it's tropical marine because you have those consistently warm temperatures throughout the year. You have a very small temperature range, right? So when you look at that difference there between the max and the minimum, right, the temperature range is it's very close when you look at like that 28 and 24. So it's like 4 degrees Celsius different, and there's a lot of rainfall for all of the months, right? So number 7 is B. Let me zoom out a bit. Actually, let's do these two and then we'll look at those, right? Because this was 8 and 9, right? Which of the following pairs of points is intervisible, right? So we have some points. Let me zoom in a bit for this one, right? And it says, right? Q and T. So we have, I'm just going to circle them. So we have Q, we have T. Then it says Q and S, and then P and S, and then P and T. What do you all think for this one? When you say intervisible, you mean that you could see both locations, right? So they're mutually visible, right? So what happens is you could stand on one point and look at the other point, and there's going to be nothing, right, blocking that point. So if we look at the values, right, of these certain things, if you look at, let's look at P and T. Right, let's do the first one, P and T down from the bottom. If we look at P and T, it goes from 50, T is 50 as well, P is 50, right? Wait, careful, I haven't given you all the responses yet. We're visualizing it. So P would be 50, T would be 50, but look at it. You have some hundreds all the way up here, then you have another 100, then you have another 100. So this highland area is going to block it, right? So it is not P and T, right? So that's how you want to visualize it. So then is it P and S is the next thing, right? Oh, wrong thing I'm using. P and S. Again, this area in this section here is going to block P and S, right? So then the other option was Q and T, right? But here's the thing, Q is in an upland area by 100, and then T is down at 50, right? And then T is down there, but then S is here at 100 as well, right? So what happens is this one is actually, right? This one is actually Q and S, right? Because visualize it in your mind. If you stand on this mountain point at 100 here, wouldn't you be able to clearly see the 100 at S? Look at it. Q is 100, S is 100. Then wouldn't you be able to see both of them with nothing blocking it? So that's what we mean by intervisible, right? You could stand on one point and see directly to the other. With the others, there's something blocking it. So just remember that term, right? Yeah. So just think about it. Like if you stand on one top of a mountain and the other mountain is the same height and there's nothing high between it, you're going to be able to see. But good, you can see now, right? P cannot see S because the hill is blocking it, and Q and P cannot see T because the hill is hill, because in this area we have one hill where P is down here, right? So this is will be P, that'll be Q, R would be somewhere around here, and then you would have the river, and then you would have S on top there, and then T all the way down there as well. So like draw it on your paper so you could remember it, right? We're good with my Q and S is intervisible. Maybe there's another pronunciation for that, and that's just how I'm pronouncing it. Right. Then it says, between which of the following pairs of points, and I have to zoom out a bit, is the gradient the steepest? So let's go P and Q. So we have this location here. Then it says, what's the next one? R and S. And then it says what? Q. Let me use a different color. Q, and what's the next one? R, right? And then it says S and T, S and T. What do y'all think? Yes, so Q and R actually has the steepest gradient, because look at this difference here. Look at this chunk here between Q and R, how close together the contour lines are. So with that one for number 9, it's C, right? So good. Y'all were good with that one. Right. Number 10. Which of the following, looking for my mouse again, which of the following phrases refers to northings, right? A, horizontal lines that decrease in value northwards. B, horizontal lines that increase in value northwards. C, vertical lines that decrease in value northwards. Or D, vertical lines that increase in value northwards. So we know it's not vertical lines running up and down, so we could take out C and D one time. So what do you all think is number 10? Because we know northings are basically the horizontal lines, but the question is, right, they increase in value going northwards, they do not decrease, right? So good. Number 11 and 12, right? Items 11 and 12 refer to the following contour sketch map: contours in meters showing points X and W and area Y. The bearing of X from W is approximately, where do we put our 4-point cardinal point for this one? Where's the starting point? We're putting our 4-point cardinal point of X from W. At W, right? And then you will connect your point, right? Where is it? X, and you'll take your ruler and you'll draw your line and you connect it, right? Now you all could do your little protractor thing if you want, right? But basically that is, this would be 0, this will be 90, this will be 180, this will be 270, and it is above the 270. It's going there, so this one will be D at 350, right? Good. Then it says a vertical interval is, or like a contour interval. Yeah, you're allowed to carry a calculator, a scientific one, right? But I know they make you reset it before you go into the room. Yeah, so calculators, geometry set, those sort of things, right? Just in case. Never know. Right? What will be the vertical interval in this case? We have 20A, B 40, C 60, D 80. Yeah, it will be 20 because it went from, let me change my color. 120 minus 20 is 100. 100 minus 20 is 80. 80 minus 20 is 60. Good. Let me zoom out a bit for this one. Right. Which of the following types of settlements will most likely develop at Y and Z. So we have Y and then we have Z, and it says A linear, B isolated, C dispersed, D nucleated, and yeah, it's definitely linear because linear settlements tend to be formed along a straight road, a line of settlement. It doesn't have to be a straight road. Remember, it could be the coastline as well, but it's giving that line shaped with that, right? Good. Number 14. Which type of farming is most likely to exist at X, right? So then we have X down here. A, poultry rearing. B, shifting cultivation. C, subsistence farming. Or D, commercial arable. What do we think? Yeah, it's definitely commercial arable because look at it, right? It's saying that that jagged line is the estate boundary, number one. And look at that large land space, right? That large land space will be ideal for that commercial arable farming, right? Compared to every other area where the space is much smaller. Yeah, it may have roads, but look at how flat and wide that entire area is. That is so ideal for commercial arable farming. Right. We did this already in the last live we had. So let's see if you'll remember it. The landform shown at X and Y respectively, trying to zoom a bit for you all, right? Is A, coastal plain and rounded top hill, B, ridge and rounded top hill, C, coastal plain and plateau, or D, plateau and ridge. What do we think? We have C with a question mark. Dun, dun, dun. It is C, right? Yeah, so it's C. Look at how flat this is. That is the coastal plain. It's close to the sea. It's between 0 to 50. But the shape of this one is given plateau because it's wide, it's an empty space at the center, it's a very large flat top, right? And the contour lines are close to the side. So the thing with the hill though is that the hill tends to be more like this. Yeah, like that. Like, like a hill, but it will be more like it will visually look like this. So the contour lines tend to be like this, right? It tends to be more round. Hey, leave him alone, right? So that is actually a big that's a big trick with this question because it when you look at it, you want to think that it looks like that circle because we know the circles are the rounded top hills as well, right? No, if you look at it, right, it could, like, if you look at it because you don't like look at the whole flat image, right? Because it could potentially be, if you try to think about it, it could look like a rounded top hill, right? But they need to be more packed together and more like concentric and circular and get progressively smaller. So it would need to like progressively get smaller to be that rounded top hill. But because it has like, look at how big this area is and look at the shape, that's a plateau, right? So it's that large flat top. So it's gonna look something like this, right? So that's how it's gonna look when you look at that 350, right, in terms of it. But we think we got that. We we're like, yeah, we know that difference. Okay, no problem. But everyone who wasn't sure about this one is good. We're like, yeah. Apart from Azaria, we're like, yeah, we're good. I'm remembering it for tomorrow in case. Right. Item 16 refers to the following image, right? The landform shown is most likely A cave, B doline or doline, however you pronounce it, C cockpit, or D crater lake. What do we think? Yeah, so this one is B. So basically, what you're seeing with that water there is that like that depression, and that depression there would have been like a surface underground feature, and sometimes there would have been like an underground cave or something that collapsed, and that underground cave that collapsed with all of that dissolution and that calcium carbonate and everything, right? I don't know. I wonder if it is. Maybe we should have image searched it. Probably. It is also formed in a lot of places with cockpits, right? So it's very flat. So that was the thing, right? So they would have to show us a bit of height to show that it is a crater lake. So oh gosh, I can't like I'm trying to draw crater lakes. I guess a crater lake would look something like this. You all know drawing is not my strong point, right? So it would have to show you that there's some sort of height, but it's giving that the land is very flat, and we're seeing the coconut trees and all of those things. So we know it's very flat there, right? So this one, it's showing that surface underground feature. You think you got that? But like visualize a crater lake in your mind with my image there. And it doesn't really look like it, but you wanna like visualize it. So this is showing that that underground feature collapsed, right? Item 17 refers to the following map of a continent, right? And it's between 23.5 degrees north and south. The shaded area of the map above is best described as A, tropics, B, Arctic zone, C, Mediterranean, or D, temperate zone. What do we think? Yep, that is our tropics because it is between our 23.5 degrees south and north is Tropic of Cancer, and then down below is the Tropic of Capricorn, right? So good, not bad. We're going to love this question now. Right? Items 18 to 22 refer to the following diagram of a Caribbean weather system, right? And it says the weather system shown in the diagram is A, hurricane, B, cold front, C, tropical wave, or D, ITCZ. Oh, I'm trying to zoom. You don't like this either, Mia. You don't like soils and weather stations, weather maps, anything. So it is, yes, a tropical wave, but why is it a tropical wave? Well, look at it. Number one, we have those very open, widely spaced isobars, right? Yeah, it's a tropical wave. That's what you all put for C. Tropical wave. Oh, you look at the waveline. Oh, I'm giving all the different things, right? Yeah, so like that sort of image, yeah, is like the waveline sort of thing, right? But you see how the isobars are sort of like V-shaped or U-shaped, how they are that way, right? So in the way that is telling us how the wind is blowing. It's showing us the different movements, but it's also blowing from east to west. So that one is a tropical wave, right? Let's look at 21 as it's on the side here. The rainfall depicted by the station model behind the line X can be best described as A, drizzle, B, light rainfall, C, heavy rainfall, or D, intermittent showers. And tell me the left or the right of this image, which one would be behind the line X? Left or the right, would that be behind? So the answer is heavy rainfall, right? So this there would be heavy rainfall. So the right would be behind because of the direction that it is blowing in, right? So that's how we get, yeah, that's how we got the R as the behind because of the direction it is blowing. And those are sort of yeah, the R is behind, right? And basically that symbol here would be heavy rainfall. It says the line labeled Y represents A an isobar. Let me zoom out a bit, right? A an isobar, B a cold front, C a warm front, or D a tropical wave. Right? So good 19 is A an isobar, an area of equal atmospheric pressure. Good. The station model, I can zoom a bit. The station model behind the line X shows the wind blowing at a speed of, and it says behind the line X, how much speed is this wind blowing here? Without even looking at the answers, what's the wind speed for that? Now you'll give me the answer. So because it is, right, so it will be B, because when you look at it, so I'm just going to shade it, right? So it will be B because this is the arrow and it has a long one, which is 10 knots, and then a short one, which is 5. So when we scroll now, right, good, and we add that 10 and that 5, we get 15. Good. The cloud cover shown on the weather station model behind the line X can be best described as, zooming out again, right? Behind X, and this is what we're looking at. A, low and totally overcast. B, low and partially cloudy. C, high and clear. Or D, low and clear. So this one, you see how this circle, let me zoom in a bit for you all. You see how this circle is completely darkened? We can see that the circle is like completely darkened. Because it's completely darkened, it's telling us that it's full cloud coverage. Because remember, this is behind, because this is the direction that it is blowing, right? So it's full cloud coverage, right? And yeah, we did 21 before. We said heavy rainfall. I'm doing them side by side and not in the order. That's why. So I don't have to keep coming off of the Zoom to edit. 21 was heavy rainfall, C. So those are 4 dots that you're seeing, right? These are 4 dots here. That was heavy rainfall here. Right? And that completely darkened circle is telling us it is fully overcast, right? Because the completely darkened circle is the 8 out of 8 total cloud cover, right? So it's low and totally overcast because we have that emphasis on totally overcast, right? Good. Number 23. Which of the following can be defined as a sheet of solidified magma along a bedding plane? And we have A, cell, B, plug, C, dike, or D, batholith. A sheet of solidified magma along a bedding plane, meaning it is horizontal. Let me zoom. The line on the circle shows the direction the wind is going or where it is coming from. It actually does both, right? So this will be where the wind is blowing from, and this is the direction it is blowing. Wait, let me check that. Yeah, so it's actually telling you that this wind is blowing, right, in that sort of direction. So it's actually showing the both of them. Give me 1 second. Right, good. That was correct. So here is where the direction is blowing from, and this is where it is blowing to. I want to zoom a bit for you, right? So this point here, where the direction is blowing from, and then this is the direction that it is blowing to. We understand that, right? I always have to remind myself that, because I'm like, sometimes in geography, things just be wrong side. And as be like from to. But sometimes it just be the other way. Right. What was the answer for number 3 if I missed what you all said? Was the A for number 3? The sheet of solidified magma, right? So it would be the cell, right? For number 23. Number 23 was our cell. Good. Item 24 refers to the following diagram of a cross-section of the Earth's crust. The section which starts at the 29 km mark is at A, the core, B, seama, C, crust, or D, mantle. What do we think? What do we think? Just give me 1 second. I'm responding to a student. Do we all think it's the mantle, or do we think it could be something else? What do we think? What is the consistency of the mantle? Look at the location. It says 29,000 km liquid. What do y'all think? That's the question. So it looks a bit further, so you don't think it's the mantle. So it's definitely not seama, because that's a type of it. So right, so that's what the question is. Do you think then, if it's that, it is the mantle or not? It's not, right? Because remember, the mantle is a semi-molten layer. So the mantle would actually be a bit higher up, right? So this one is the core, because remember, you have the core, you have the inner core, you have the outer core, and that is the liquid core there, right? It didn't make a difference, right? But you have to be careful with this one. So when you look at this image, right, you want to remember the mantle is semi-molten, right? So we understand my number 24 is the core. Yeah. This one was one of those trick ones to kind of throw you off, and you'll be like, yeah, it's the mantle. Right. Okay, we could do 25, 26, 28, and then I'll zoom to the others, right? Which of the following processes causes the formation of igneous rock? A, changing of rocks. B, cooling of magma. C, hardening of rocks. Or D, compacting of sediment. What do we think? Which one? Definitely B. Once you see that magma, right? The changing of the rock, that's metamorphic. Compacting of sediment, sedimentary. Then we have number 26. Which of the following acids increases the rate of chemical weathering in karst or limestone environments? A, nitric, B, sulfuric, C, carbonic, or D, hydrochloric? And don't ask me about nitric and all of those things, right? Because you all know the chem in me is not there. Carbonic, right? Good. 28. Limestone is a type of rock that is A, metamorphic, B, sedimentary, D, igneous, or D, marlstone. What do you think? What type of rock is limestone? Good. It's a sedimentary rock. Excellent. Let's look at 27 first, and then we'll go. We're seeing 27 again. You'll remember 27. Which of the following statements correctly describes the relationship between weather and climate? And because we did this one already, I'm going to just give you the answer, right? Weather is the day-to-day changes in the atmosphere, while climate is the average condition of the atmosphere over many years, right? Good. I want you all to pay attention to 29, right? Because it is a slight trick depending on the arrow, right? It says, what type of limestone landform is labeled Y in the diagram above? And it's pointing to this thing on top there. A pillar, B stalactite, C stalagmite, or D swallow hole, right? So good. This one is a stalactite because remember, stalactite with the C is the ceiling, right? So you all taught me that. And then the G is the ground, right? Let me spell ground correct for those who will be watching after, right? And then the pillar is when they're joined together, and then the swallow hole would be up on top here, right? Good. Items 30 and 31. And it's showing a population density map of P. Which of the following statements is generally true of the population of island P? A, it is evenly distributed. B, the area of highest density is to the south. C, the density decreases outwards from area 1. Or D, the density increases outwards from area 1. Is it evenly distributed? Not at all. Is the highest density by area 1? Let's look. Highest density would be there. Is it in the south? No, it is not. So then the question is, does the density increase or decrease from this one here? And it actually decreases because it goes from the most densely populated area to the least. So this one is C. So it does not increase, right? It decreases. Good. Which of the following areas has the smallest population? So who has the smallest population? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 1, 2, 3, or 4? I just use any numbers because I don't want to scroll too much because I want you all to see the map good. Right, tree, right? Good. And we know that because look at what it says, right? This darkened area, let me use a different color. This darkened area will be more than 400, then the 200 to 399, 100 to 199, 0 to 99, right? So that one would be, right? That one would be C. Good. Number 32. Which of the following statements explains how vegetation contributes to the development of soils? A, decaying vegetation produces a habitat for earthworms. B, vegetation decomposes to produce organic matter in the soil. C, roots, twigs, and leaves are washed downwards to increase the depth of the soil. Or D, vegetation provides a parent material which helps in the formation of soil structure. It's B, decaying vegetation produces a habitat for the earthworms. They tend to be in the soil. Roots, twigs, and leaves are washed downwards. That's definitely no. Vegetation produces the parent material. Definitely not. The parent material is all the way down to the bottom, right? And because it's all the way down to the bottom, that has nothing to do with the vegetation on top. Although you can have a little leaching and heat and water, but definitely not that one. Item 33 refers to the following profile of a river. Which of the following processes is dominant in the first stage of the river? So we have the first stage here, the upper course. A, erosion, B, deflation, C, deposition, or D, transportation. And the random deflation there. Right, definitely because of the steepness of the upper course, and because the boulders tend to be the biggest, it has that gravity on its side, it has the steepness, so erosion is dominant in our upper course. Good. Number 34. Vertical erosion in the upper course of a river can lead to, and we're doing 34, A. Potholes, B. Meanders, C. Vertical cliffs, or D. Floodplains. And when we're talking about vertical, we're talking about vertical or downward erosion, right? So what we have that valley there and we have that downward erosion. It can, yes, cause the formation of potholes, because what happens is that the pebbles and stuff are going to swirl in that valley, and it will create that pothole there, right? The meander and river cliff, that's middle and lower course, and the floodplain is a lower course as well, which you do not have vertical erosion, you tend to have lateral erosion. Number 35. To which sector of the economy do activities like brewing and bottling, construction, and shipbuilding belong to? What do we think? Brewing and bottling, construction, and shipbuilding. A primary, B tertiary, C quaternary, or D secondary? Right, definitely a secondary industry. 37 on this side now. Which of the following conditions is needed for the growth of coral reefs? A. Fresh water, B. Deep ocean water, C. Warm ocean temperature, or D. Cloudy or turbid water? What do you think for 37? Right, definitely. Does it need fresh water? Nope, it's usually found in the salt water. Does it need deep ocean water? No, because that means it will not get the sunlight and it will be too cold. Does it need cloudy water? Definitely not, because that will block the sunlight and there would be no photosynthesis. So you need warm ocean water. Excellent. Repeat for number 38. As one climbs a mountain, the surrounding temperature A decreases, B increases, C fluctuates, or D remains constant. What do we think for number 38? As one climbs a mountain, right, the temperature decreases, because as we go up in altitude, AL, that should be ALT, right, you decrease in temperature, and that rate that we've been talking about is a 6.5 degrees Celsius per 100 meter or 1 kilometer. Good. Number 39, right? Did we do 36? No. Let's do 36 first. Which of the following conditions would most likely result from the increased use of tropical rainforests for agricultural purposes? A. Increased height of trees. B. Greater variety of plants. C. Greater rates of erosion of topsoil. Or D. Increased amounts of nutrients added to the soil. Right, it's definitely going to be C, because for agriculture, you have to clear the land. So you clear all of the vegetation and then you grow cash crops, right? So it's definitely not increasing the height of the trees. There's deforestation, so not a wider variety of plants. And because the vegetation is cleared and the soil exposed, there is actually decreased nutrients in the soil, right? Good. Number 39. Which of the following actions can be used to reduce? And when we talk about to use to reduce, we're talking about to mitigate the effects of greenhouse gases. A. Reduction in the use of energy efficient technology. B. Increased use of CFCs or chlorofluorocarbons. C. Increase large scale cattle farming, or D. Increase use of solar power? I just said those words back to front, but it's D because if you reduce the use of energy efficient technology, that's going to increase the greenhouse gas. When you use more chlorofluorocarbons, that's increasing it. Large scale cattle farming, a lot of methane. So, all of these are increasing the greenhouse gases and they are actually causing more global warming, right? So, number 39 is D. How are we feeling so far? Liking the question so far? Not too bad compared to some of the others there. Item 49, we did this question already, right? Which of the following drainage patterns? We said that this was radial because it's radiating outwards from this central point, right? So we did that question already. I want to focus on 44, right? Good. 44 and 45 refer to the following drainage of a mountain with tributaries leading to a river that flows into actually, right? That flows into the sea, right? So it is asking us what do the dotted lines in the diagram represent? And we have A, plateau, we have B, hilltop, C, watershed, or D, drainage basin. What do these lines there show? It's that boundary line, and that boundary line is the watershed that separates one drainage basin from the other. This area inside here would be the drainage basin, which is the area drained by its river and its tributaries. I'm going to zoom out a bit, right, for the next question. Number 45. Which of the following terms describes the drainage pattern of the area? A, radial, A, trellis, my bad, B, radial, C, parallel, or D, dendritic? What do we think? Look at the drainage pattern. Look at how the rivers are there. So trellis is the one that joins at the right angles. Radial radiates outwards. Parallel actually looks something like this, right? So this one is dendritic. So let me zoom a bit for you all, right? Because if we follow the diagram, we can see that it has those acute angles less than 90 degrees. Very homogeneous material, right? Good. Right, so we just did this one. 42 across here. Fold mountains form when crustal plates move. I need to zoom a bit because if I can't see, you cannot see either. Right. Fold mountains usually form where crustal plates move. A, we're saying up and down. B, towards each other. C, parallel to each other. Or D, away from each other. Fold mountains are a collision zone at a convergent margin, so towards each other. And as they go, they will are very light in nature, so they'll be pushed upwards and buckle upwards, right? Good. 43. The type of soil that is related to equatorial climate is called A, latosol, B, alluvium, C, terra rosa, or D, chernozem. What's that soil in the equatorial area? Yeah, this one is the latosol, right? So you'll need to learn that one off, right? Good. 46. Which of the following situations contributes most to the pollution of the environment in capital cities of CARICOM countries, right? So talking about urban pollution. A, discharge of chemicals in the sea. B, discharge of fish waste into the sea. C, exhaust fumes from motor vehicles, or D, accumulation of garbage from factories. Dun, dun, dun. In urban capital cities. Tell me, Do our capital cities in the Caribbean have a lot of factories in them? Or do we have industrial zones in the Caribbean? Think about where you're from, right? Are there a lot of factories in the urban cities, in the capital cities? Think about the capital city from the island you're from, right? So this one is C. Because what do we know in the urban area? There's a lot of traffic congestion. So there's going to be now some of the islands do have a factory, right? But it says most, a few of the Caribbean islands have decentralized their factories from the capital city to close by, right? But this one is the exhaust from the motor vehicle. So the garbage from the factory. So in the urban area, municipal waste tends to be higher, which is like from homes and businesses and those things in the capital city. Right? So this one is C. We're good, why it's C? Right. Which of the following events, we're on 47, which of the following events pose the most serious threat to rivers of the Caribbean? Again, Caribbean is the key thing, right? A, quarrying. B, tourist activities. C, improper fishing. Or D, dumping of waste, right? So good, you have good, like you all said, D, the direct dumping of waste in the waterway that affects the water quality and it causes a lot of flooding as well. 48. At transform margins, crustal plates are A, being pulled apart, sliding past each other, colliding with each other, or being absorbed into the mantle. Transform margins, they slide past each other at different speeds, right? Let's do number 51 on the side here. Which of the following factors would be most effective in slowing down? Ooh, wrong thing. I have to get my pencil. Slowing down the rate of population growth in the Caribbean. A, low death rate. B, low emigration rate. C, life expectancy. Or D, low fertility rates. What do we think? The low fertility rate, right? Because that's what all those natalist policies were all about. So remember the death rates. Yeah, but again, with that one, the emigration rate, you could control it so much. You don't want a high life expectancy, right? So you want to reduce the number of children that the average woman has in her lifetime, right? Good. Let's do number 52. Which of the following benefits would most likely be gained by Caribbean countries which diversify their economies through industrialization, meaning they move from primary to secondary, but they're also keeping the primary to provide the raw materials for the industry, provided it's a food based thing, right? Or maybe it could be an extractive primary and then industrialization. A, protection from economic losses. B, greater purchasing power of the population. C, less dependence on a single economic market. Or D, increased trade between North and Latin American countries. It's going to be C because remember that's the point of diversification, right? You want to make sure you don't depend on one economic activity because when you have one economic activity, what happens is that when, let's say, a natural disaster comes or there's an economic recession or there's a crash in the economy, then you have nothing else to depend on. So it really is, you want less dependence on a single economic activity. Right. Number 49 and 50. Right. So we're back on this side. Which of the following resources is most important when considering the location of lumber industries? You see how they twisted it from primary to lumber now? A, access to power. B, access to labor. C, proximity to ports. Or D, proximity to raw material. So when you say power, but you have to think about it, right? A lot of the forested areas are up on the mountains. Are there a lot of electricity and stuff up there? What do we know about lumber industries? It's very bulky. It's a very bulky raw material, right? So it's very expensive to transport. So where do you want to locate that industry? You would try to locate it close to the raw material as possible, because trees are very heavy, so you don't want to have to transport it very far, because if you are adding value to the trees and making something, that finished product would be lighter, but the tree itself is going to be very heavy. It's expensive to transport, especially very far, especially if you have a rugged terrain or something. It's very bulky, so you want to try and have lumber industries as close to the raw material as possible, right? Hopefully you'll get that. If not, type your question in the chat, right? Number 50. Which of the following types of farming is capital intensive? So it's saying capital intensive and uses high yield variety of seeds to cultivate crops. A. Commercial arable farming. B. Subsistence farming. C, market gardening, or D, mixed farming. Definitely commercial arable, because you need a lot of capital and investment. And high yield varieties, that's something that came out of like the Green Revolution, where the seeds were producing a higher yield and those things, right? Good. Right, we did number 52. Yep. Right, so number 50, what number is this? 53 refers to the sketch map of a coastal area, right? Which of the following areas on the map would most likely have been chosen to build that town? But that would be the early settlers, right? Early settlers. A, so we have W. B, we have X. C, we have Y. Or D, we have Z. Where do you think the early settlers would have would have chosen to put their town? Yeah, definitely C. It won't be W, because that's the swamp, right? So that's gonna be a lot of swampy area. It's gonna be too waterlogged, a lot of diseases. X is too steep on top here. Z is a steep hill between some steep contour lines, and there's a little break there. But Y has number one, that proximity to the river. It's the lower course of the river, so it has water, it has fertility, right? And maybe if they developed, being close to the sea would have some sort of trade export benefit, right? Good. Right. Items 54 and 55 refer to the sketch map of an area. Which of the following areas would be the typical location for commercial arable farming or plantation agriculture in the Caribbean? A1, B2, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Where do you think the Caribbean islands would put their commercial arable farming? At A, right? In this area here. Number one, it's a large open land space, right? When it says gently rolling, means it's generally flat, right? So it's gonna be easy to get equipment, but watch, it's also close to the sea and the port, right? So it's gonna be easy to do export and imports and to transport and harvest everything. Good. The best area to locate a new factory in order to minimize, let me zoom a little bit, right? In order to minimize the effects of air pollution, where would you put the factory? One, two, three, or four? Where would you put your factory? Hmm. Look at the direction of the wind. This is the wind direction on top here. Good. So you'll put your factory at D. So you'll put your factory here because you're definitely not putting it up on top of the mountain to blow, right? You're not going to put it in the gently flat land. You're not going to put it in the forested area, right? So you're going to put it at this area down there so that the pollution would be basically, blown away from there, right? So that's for that one. Good. Number 56. Which of the following features indicates, and we are back to talking about unhealthy coral reefs? A, brightly colored corals. Let me zoom a bit. Right, so we're talking about unhealthy. A, brightly colored corals. B, large number of parrotfish. C, large variety of species of corals. Or D, extensive area of bright coral reef. Definitely D, because brightly colored means that they are healthy. Large number of parrotfish, that's species showing that they're still there. Large variety of species of corals, all of these are actually our healthy coral reefs. And D would be our extensive area of bright white corals. It's lost that Zuzan Tally. It has reverted back to its calcium carbonate structure, right? So that is number 56. Let's go 57, 58. Right? So we have this image and we have tropical deforestation followed by great overland flow, which is another term for surface runoff, soil erosion, and then X. Which of the following consequences best represents X? We have A, flooding, B, landslides, C, reduced rainfall, or D, decreased canopy. It is flooding because look at it. Let me just annotate a bit. When you have deforestation, you are going to leave the land bare, less infiltration, less interception. So you have more surface runoff. That is going to cause the soil to be eroded and washed away. It's going to be exposed, right? It's going to flow into the river. There's a lot of siltation, so there's going to be a lot of flooding at X. Right? Number 58. What other consequence can result from tropical deforestation? Same thing we spoke about last time. A, lumbering, B, loss of flora, C, increase in fauna, or D, increase in groundwater. And yep, it's a loss of flora, right? So we did that already. 59 and 60. I don't know why I was like 69 at one point. I was like, what? Which of the following would not be considered a cause of coastal pollution in the Caribbean? Not considered. So that means one, like maybe the others will be in this case, but one would be less in this case. A, oil mining. B, agricultural runoff. C, oil spills from ocean going vessels. Or D, poisonous fumes from industrial plants. What do we think? Not considered a cause of pollution. Dun, dun, dun. You're in the exam room. You have to choose which one would be not considered a cause of coastal pollution. Do we think all of them causes it? So there is oil mining in the Caribbean. There is agricultural runoff, right? Look at it. Poisonous fumes from industrial plants. And it says coastal pollution, hinting at water pollution. What are fumes talking about? Fumes are talking about the air, right? So this one is linked to air pollution, right? So poisonous fumes, that's air pollution, and the others, that coastal pollution, is like affecting the coast, the water, the land. So it says not considered a coastal pollution. So it could potentially, but this one, right? Because it has like that difference there. We'll look at that. Good. Number 60, right? The bauxite industry, right, in the Caribbean has declined mainly because A, the environmental cost has become extremely high. B, there is a shortage of skilled labor to work in the industry. C, the quality of the region's bauxite has become substandard. Or D, the demand for bauxite has fallen on the international market. And the answer is yes, D. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. Because the environmental costs, I mean, a lot of Caribbeans still have to get up to par with that. Shortage of skilled labor, definitely not. Quality of the region's bauxite has become substandard. It has not, but the demand on the international market has dropped because a lot of Caribbean islands could only produce at a certain a level or a certain amount. So because they could only produce at a certain level or a certain amount, right? It would mean that they can't compete because remember, like Jamaica used to be number one, but then you had Australia and China and those other countries, boosting production. And because they are bigger, they'll be able to, add a bit, like produce more. We're good at this. What do we think of this paper compared to the one we did just now? Did we like this one more? Oh, you were like, nah, we didn't like this one more. This is me taking a 2 minute mental break, by the way. Did we like this paper more or not? Yeah, no, maybe not. Are we also taking a 2 minute mental break? How are we feeling? Maybe a little, not so much. Have y'all started practicing and prepping before, or y'all are just like this is the day before the exam, so we're now starting? You need a break. What do y'all think? Saturn. Don't worry, you have time. Remind me, when is the exam? Is it morning or evening? Remind me, when was the exam? As long as you all know when the exam is there, because it's important, you all need to know if your exam is in the morning or evening. Morning. Oh, in the morning. So you'll have to get up early. So you'll have to push and do work now until morning. Oh, you'll have bio and geo on the same. Oh, yeah, always, because I did bio and geo on the same day as well. Except mine was on the holiday, because geo tends to fall on the holiday a lot. Right. So what do y'all think? We have time to do one more paper, or do we wanna just leave and go do some studies on our own? And to make sure I have your attention, Because I know we just did a lot. So y'all had to tell me. Because we did a lot. But this is also me taking a 2 minute break. Oh yeah, and I know a lot of y'all have bio and geo on the same day. One more? We could do one more? Okay. Okay. Just give me 1 second, right? Let me make sure my screen is still thinking, right? Good. So we'll do this, right? And then we'll sort of like go so y'all can get some time to look at everything and get prepared for who has to do both your subjects tomorrow, right? With it, did I change the paper? Yeah. Right. So we remember this map. Yeah, so we looked at this earlier, right? So good. Give me 1 second. I had to think there of what I was gonna say. Right. Which island is located at 12 degrees north, 61 degrees west? The entire map is north, right? So we're going to go with with 12 degrees north. 12 degrees north is going to be somewhere here, and then 61 degrees west. So when we go across, right, this one should be a bit higher, right? It's actually Grenada, because when you go across, right, let me just adjust, right, it'll be 12 degrees north and then 61 degrees west, right? So that one is Grenada. Let's look at number 3 and then we'll scroll, right? Number 3. Which of the following is a or which of the following islands is approximately 1,000 meters west of Port-au-Prince? Remember, you're using your scale. You have 0 to 1,000. If you think that your geographic eye deceives you, because sometimes you're like, yeah, I really cannot average, what you will do is take a piece of paper and just draw that on the scale. But if you go across, right, so we have Port-au-Prince, and it says west of Port-au-Prince, so north, south, east, west. So we're looking this direction. And if we go across with the 100 meters, 1,000 kilometers, it will be the Cayman Islands for number 3. And then this one says Port-au-Prince is located at what? So we will put our X at Port-au-Prince. So that's what you want to do, right? And then you will go across to give your value. So that will basically give you around 18 degrees north. And then you have to come down to give your value. So that will be around 18 degrees north and then about 72 degrees west. So then this one down here, Port-au-Prince, will be located at B. Follow me for D. For number 4, I mean, an airplane leaves Bridgetown, Barbados, right? So let's zoom a bit so we could see, right? So the airplane is leaving, and I'm going to put the X for you, Bridgetown, Barbados, and it is going to Kingston, Jamaica. And which direction is it flowing? Even flying, I mean, even though we're not seeing it, what direction is that? And it was like northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. Look at that, and then tell me which direction is our airplane flying. A, northwest, B, southeast, C, northwest, or D, southwest. It would be C, northwest, right? Good. Right, so we're looking at this question. Good, I'm now seeing the messages. It's looking at this question here. The weather is pretty bad on my side because of all of the rain that we've been having. So, cause a little lag there, right? The grid reference of point Z is, right? So we have to go to the grid, right? You see how they're testing, same diagram, but now we go to Z. And when you're given your grid references, you always go right to the bottom left-hand corner. So we will go down. Our eastern value is 36 and go across, and our northern value is 41. So because of that, we will exit C and D because they put the northern first. And then it says 636, 5, and then 41, 3. Right, so in terms of this one, you have to draw your little, remember, you have to draw your little 9 lines and average it, right, in terms of this, right? So let me just, I want to clear it up a little bit so I can try and visualize it. What? Um, right. What you all think? Because I'm seeing different questions there. So it has a difference between A and B. Both has the 36, both has the 41. So what y'all think between A and B? Now that I draw the lines, what do y'all think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. It's actually, to be a bit more accurate, it would be A. Now that the lines are drawn, we can see why it's more A than B. Which years have we done so far? Does anyone remember what we started with? Y'all think it's B more? Look at it with the lines. Give me 1 second, right? Let me remember which one did we start with? 24 and I believe 23. And this is 22. What do y'all think? We still think it's A, or we think maybe it's B now? We still think it's A, or we think it's still B? Now that the lines are drawn in. It's a bit more with A, right? Because what happens is that if we were to say the tree, look at it. Let me zoom in a bit for you all. Right. Would you say Z is in the, look at it this way, right? Is Z in the middle? Would you say Z is almost in the middle there? And look at it here, right? So that's what you all want to look at, right? So careful with it, right? So how it would be, right? So we have the 36 and we have the 42. If you draw the lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you go down on this line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it will be 36, 5. But if you draw your lines 1, 2, 3, let me do them a bit more. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you go across now, it takes you to the 1, 2, 3. So then you get 42, 3. So what that question is doing is playing on the Easterns and the Northern's next value, the sixth value. Because ideally, you know the Eastern and Northern. Because if you look at the answers, we're seeing how they're just a swap, right? So this one was A. Because if you said the 3, then that is actually the Northern value, and then the 5 would be the Eastern value. But Easterns go first and then Northerns. We think we understand why 5 is A? We're like, oh wow, a lot of thinking for that one question. Number 5 is A, but you had to be really careful in your mind with like Eastern Northings, and not mix up the sixth value there, right? Number 8, which of the read that bad there? Which location is approximately 50 meters above sea level? We have W for A, we have B for X, C for Y, or D for Z. Which one is approximately 50 meters above sea level? So we think Z over W. Because that's the choice we had to make here, Z over W. What do y'all think? I'm looking at the image as well because we have to kind of average. So we still deciding between if it's which ones we are deciding between Z and W. Definitely not Y, and then X is above, right? So what do we think of this one? Who says Z and who says W? Let's try and average this space here, right? So let's try and do a little average. So this would be the length here, right? And half of that length would be here for 50. So then which one do we think is closer to that? Let me do it this way. So it will be about here. What do y'all think? I'm seeing a lot of Z's in the chatter, but what do y'all think when we kind of visualize it like that? I'm thinking W. I'm hinting towards W, but I'm open to arguments if you all think Z is more. Because that's what I was trying to look at for this one. Because when you try and like average it like that. Oh, anyone thinks it's because like these things you kind of have to like because it says approximately 50 meters above sea level. W is very close to 40. So it says approximately. Anyone was like, nah. Okay, let me curve the line. Let me curve the line. Let's say we curve the line and it goes. Could see it. Could see it. Okay, let me look at this one and average it. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Let me look at this one and see. Yeah, because I'm actually looking at it now that I curved the line as well. Because as a straight line, it's W, but then as a curved line, it's giving Z as well. But then, oh my gosh, y'all. But then think about it. Hmm. So we know it's not Y, and so W is between the 40 and the 60. So less than 40. Give me a second. Let's really work through. Let's work through the English of this one. But yeah, I'm actually thinking about it now that I look at it, right? In terms of this, right? Because when I looked at it before, I had W, but now I'm seeing the arguments that y'all are making with the curved line, and I was like, I could understand it. Because I had W before when I looked at it initially. So let me see my reasoning for W. Yeah, so the contour lines are curved. It is W or Z, but the question is, why did I say W, and why are y'all making such good comments for Z now? Right? Yeah, because like I'm like, because I had W. Hmm. I actually had W because what I was saying in terms of I said because what I was saying, let me just take out the curve line, right? Is that I was saying that we are going downhill, right? And what I was looking at it at is that if we're going downhill, that W would be closer to the 50. Because I was saying that if we put this here, but then the W would be a bit closer to the 50. So even if we were to curve the line, right? So let's see the space. It's an average about that. So this is how it would be. So I was thinking W is closer than here. Y'all are seeing that difference? Now that I curve it that way, we didn't curve it good enough. So that's why I was going with W, the space between them. Oh, well, like, I really don't like this question. It's W because you're going downhill. So look at the space difference here, right? And y'all, oh my gosh, look at it. Look how wide here to here is. And then look how wide here would be wider as well. And this side would be there. So this one is actually W. We're good with that? Oh, well, like, my gosh, we got just thrown off for this question. Yeah, that was my argument for this one. Oh, well, like, I still don't like this question. What do we think? We are all set with W. Let me read what you all were saying, though. Because I did curve the line a bit better, and I find like I could see it is the W more with this curved line. And curve it too good before. You all good and we could move on? Oh, well, like, my gosh, I'll probably skip this question and come back. And if you all have a question, if you all have a question that throws you off, just move on and come back here because it's what, 1 mark? You all want to just like, you all just want to just spend, imagine you spend 10 minutes trying to figure out that one. And that's not even the thing there, right? The bearing of X from W. So let me just, I need to get the image. It says X from W, X from W. So then X from W, right? W is our starting point, and we will measure there, and we said it was more than the 270, right? So good. This one was the 315 degrees, right? Which you all should ideally measure, but we were just averaging because we did it before. Which of the following best describes the slope between Y and W? Look at the names, right? A flat, let me zoom out a bit. I can't even zoom out that much, right? Because we're still not seeing it, right? A flat, B steep, C gentle, or D undulating. And it says between, right? It says between Y and W. So if we take, right? If we take our image here and we put Y and then we put W and then we draw a line, right? What sort of slope would that be? Is it A flat, B steep, C gentle, or D undulating? What type of slope would that be? Not really flat. What do y'all think? Let me write out the answers. Flat, steep, gentle, or undulating? What do we think? Flat, steep, gentle, undulating. What do we think? Look at the contour lines. Do we think they're very closely packed? Look at this space here. Look at this space here. Look at this space here. Here. Look at these spaces in the line, Azaria. Wouldn't it be to be steep? It would be very closely packed together between Y and W. So it's gentle, right? So when you look at that in this way, it will actually be gentle. Good. Yeah, so gentle, right? Look at number 9, right? Because you all love these, right? The landform shown at Y, and I can zoom out a bit for you all, right? The landform shown at Y, and I'm saying, right? Just give me 1 second. Yeah, maybe if it was up to the 60, you could argue that it is steep, right? Good. Right, so number 9, right? The landform shown at Y is A hill, B ridge, C valley, D plateau. What do we do? Hill, ridge, valley, plateau. This one is definitely a hill. So we can see how it's a hill now that it's very close together. And it's like all of those circles. You see that difference between the hill and the plateau? And how would we know it's a ridge? So if it's a ridge, it would look like this would be the axis. So there'll be some sort of axis, and all of the contour lines would go downwards. And if it were a valley, it will point upwards, and all of the contour lines would point upwards, right? So good, much better now. And this is how they trick you with like that plateau and basically, the plateau and the hill. Good. We remember this question. We remember the time for this question. It says, so we don't have to go like fully go through the calculation because we've done it, but I saw a new person, so we will actually just run through quickly. It says, what is the time in New Orleans when it is 10 p.m. on Monday in St. Petersburg? Do we remember the time for this question? We said it was a difference of, do you remember which one? Yeah, it was 2 p.m. on Monday. Don't remember the letter alone, eh? Remember the number as well, right? So, like, remember how to do the calculation. Because remember, it was a difference of the 0 to the 90 degrees plus the 0 to the 30, right? Good, which gives you what? You have to remember the calculation, Azaria. The 0 to the 20, the 0 to the 90 was the 120 degrees, right? And then we took the 120 divided by 50, which was 8 hours, and because it is behind, we minus the time, right? So good. So that's how we went from 10 p.m., right? 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Monday. Which major line of latitude is closest to New Orleans? So we had equator, Antarctic Circle, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. That 30 degrees there. Which one was that? Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. Yeah, so that one was C, our Tropic of Cancer, right? Excellent. And Tropic of Capricorn is 30, right? It's at 30 degrees south. What is the shaded area on this part of the map? I remember you all got it. So that 30 to that 60 that is shaded, that is our, which one is that? A, tropics, B, Arctic, C, Mediterranean, or D, temperate. Right, good. D, our temperate zone. Good. Remember, I told you all be careful with this question, right? Item 13 refers to the following diagram of a limestone area. What type of limestone area is labeled Y? A, cockpit, B, stalagmite, C, depression, D, swallow hole. Yeah, the swallow hole. But you see, last time they tested the stalactite, right? So that's why you'll have to pay attention to where the arrows are located. Oh, this was one. I remember when I was in school, I didn't really like these questions. These were the ones I did not favor at all. So number 14 refers to this contour map. Which of the following landforms is seen on the contour map? A, null, B, ridge, C, valley, or D, escarpment? What do you all think? Between A and B, what do you all think? No one thinks it's B? We all think it's a null? Tell me. We all going with A? Anyone think it's like B? No one thinks it's B. I'm asking it because that's the misconception with this question. It's not a It's not a escarpment because it's not steep enough, right? But the ridge tends to be a bit more V-shaped valley, right? And it tends to be, more pointed downwards. So remember how we looked at them. So we're all settled with number 14 being A. Or anyone thought that it's something else. And that's like a small isolated hilltop. I must say these things has helped me remember some names of some things. Because like I certainly bypass that a lot, to be very honest. Don't know about y'all, but I do. But y'all should not, because y'all are still in school. This one is for you, Mia, since you love these questions. Number 15, we're halfway through this paper. We're not doing bad. What type of weather system does the map suggest that the southern part of Cuba is experiencing at this time? A, hurricane, B, cold front, C, warm front, or D, anticyclone? Right, it's talking about this, and that line with those triangles, right, is what we call good our cold front, and the cold front blows down to the Caribbean. Right. Which of the following is labeled X? Right, so we have A core, B crust, C mantle, D inner core. Yeah, I know. So your message. What do we think is X? So we see how this one is the mantle now, right? Yeah, that one was just a trick before when we were looking at the core. Right. Ooh, let me see if you all remember this because we looked at this before. The feature labeled M was what? The steps on the side was what? So the steps on the side of that lower course in the river channel was A levee, B terrace, C waterfall, or D floodplain. Which is the steps on this side, right? So good, that one was the terrace. Number 18, right? We have which of the following features forms in the area labeled N, right? So N is this entire section here. A levee, B plateau, C floodplain, or D alluvial fan. Which one was N? Right, so N was our floodplain. Good, not too bad, not too bad. Right. Give me 1 second. Right. Items 19 to 21 refer to the following graph, which shows tourist arrivals for the 2 years. So we have cruise ship arrivals from January to August, right? And I'm going to keep it like this so we can see all of the options, right? In which of the following months was there almost no change in arrivals across the 2 years? Meaning the bar graphs are going to be very close to each other. So which month has right? So March, right? So look at how close March was. Like you could barely see a difference. Like if we zoom, we'll see a little difference, but barely. And which of the following months was there the greatest difference between the 2 years? A, January, so we're looking at January, B, February, C, May, or D, June. Which one had the greatest difference? Meaning the bars will had the widest space. Good, that would be January. Excellent. Good. Oh, now let me zoom out a bit, right? Which of the, oh no, I can't zoom out because we need to be able to read the options. Which of the following conclusions can be drawn from the graph? A, the number of arrivals in April 2020 was lower compared to April 2019. So actually, no, 2020 was higher. So we're crossing out that one, right? In 2020, there was a marked increase in arrivals compared with 2019. I wouldn't say that's a marked increase. It's just like a tiny increase, right? In some of the well, yeah, in some of the months. In any given month, the lowest number of arrivals was 20,000. That is not true, because if we draw a line at that 20,000, right? If we draw a line at that 20,000, it's not going to be there. So for this one, it was actually D, that January had the highest number of arrivals in both years. We can agree that January had the highest number of arrivals in both years. Yeah, no. We're like, nah, not sure. But yeah, number 21 is A. Right? Good. Right, we'll do all of these and then I'll scroll. 22. Which of the following types of rocks is formed by the solidification of lava? A, basalt, B, marble, C, sandstone, or D, limestone? What do we think? Oh, yeah, now seeing your messages coming in. What do we think for number 22? You see how this one is a bit more things. So it's the basalt for sure, because that's from a type of lava, basaltic lava. Number 23. Which of the following phrases refers to easterns? A, vertical. Well, we know we can X off C and D because they're not horizontal lines, right? They are vertical lines that run from north to south, right? But the question is, do their values decrease or do they increase in value going eastwards? So are they vertical lines that decrease in value eastwards, or vertical lines that increase in value eastwards? A decrease then increase. I said increase more than once. You all heard how I did, how I combine decrease and increase there. But yes, it's B. Let me drink some water. So I stopped doing that. Right. Number 24. The main difference between weathering and erosion, so we're on this side for 24. The main difference between weathering and erosion is A, contents of the rock, B, removal of material, C, temperature of the materials, or D, slope of the land bearing the rock. What do you think? Weathering and erosion. Content of the rock, that will be more chemical weathering. So it's the removal of the rock. Temperature of the materials, that's a different type of thing. Slope of the land, that will be mass movement. Number 25. Which of the following refers to the process, blah, blah. Which of the following terms refer to the chemical process, right? By which limestone is weathered? Yeah, I'm now seeing the messages coming in, right? So yeah, I was now going to I have to check. Yeah, so good. So which one refers to the chemical process by which limestone is weathered? A, oxidation, B, hydration, C, hydrolysis, or D, carbonation? Decarbonation, excellent, right? So that's what we know, right? The others are not dehydration, but oxidation and hydrolysis are also chemical weathering, but because it says a limestone rock, definitely carbonation. Right. So we have this population pyramid for 26 and 27, right? What is the age range within each group shown in the pyramid? Is it 4 years for A, B, 5 years, C, 6 years, or D, 10 years? What do we think for 26? Remember how you count years, right? For age. So it won't be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or it won't be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So how you have to count it, right, is 0 to 1 is 1 year, 1 to 2 is 2 years, 2 to 3 is 3 years, 3 to 4 is 4 years. Because remember, from birth till 1 will be 1 year, right? But if you say 0 is 1, then that's assuming that someone is 1 year when they're born, right? So this one is 4 years. Do it again. 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. 15 to 16, 16 to 17, 17 to 18, 18 to 19, 4 years, right? So that's a trick that they love to use with this question, right? So it's 4 years, it's your age cohort. Which of the following statements is true about population Q, right? Number one, A, the birth rate is increasing. B, the population is expanding, right? C, there are more males than females under the age of 40. Or D, there are more males than females over the age 75, right? So let's go. Would we say that birth rate is increasing? Hmm, it's like average, because out of the 65, it's like it hasn't, it's like it doesn't even really, it's like there but not really expanding, increasing. The population is expanding, and expanding population tends to have a wider shape. So it's between C or D, right? So let's look at C and let's look at D. There are more males than females under the age 40, so you'll come and draw your line here, and then you'll draw your line by D. Right? So what do you all think for this one? What do you all think? Expanding tends to be a bit wider. What do you all think for this one? What do you all say about population or country Q? Letting you all use your little deduction in your mind. So we have one C so far. We think we're like, yeah, it's definitely that. What do we think? Or anyone think it's something else? So we could argue both points and then get through. Let me zoom in a bit for you all to see. What do we think? Anyone is like, nah. But it is C, right? So good. So this one is C, right? So when you look at that, there are more males than females, right? Good. I don't like how this lets me zoom up to like a certain point, but then it like, right. Which of the following is a feature of sedimentary rock? A, deposited in layers. B, forms crystals when cooled. C, developed within the Earth's crust. Or D, formed under great heat and intense pressure. What do you remember about sedimentary rock? Which one do you think? Definitely A, right? Because when it forms crystals, that's igneous, developed within the earth, igneous, unless metamorphic, is pulled down. Great heat and pressure. It could have a little heat and it's not really heat and pressure. Remember sedimentary rocks are compaction and cementation. Remember that one? Compaction and cementation. And because all of the materials are adding up, yeah, D is metamorphic. Because all of the layers are adding up on top of each other, it's going to compress out all of the air and water. So you have that compaction and cementation. And D is that metamorphic rock. Right. Number 29. Which of the following conditions is reason for sparse settlements in inland areas in some of the Caribbean territories? A. Generally flat terrain. B. Close proximity to urban centers. C. The abundance of forested areas. Or D. The prevalence of low temperatures. What do we think? It's saying that the inland area tends to be very sparse. Why? The inland areas in a lot of Caribbean islands are definitely not flat because the flat areas tend to be along the coastline. The close proximity to the urban area, that doesn't even apply to the sparse settlements, right? And the prevalence of low temperature doesn't have to do with this. So it is the abundance of forested areas. So it tends to be mountainous, rugged terrain, very forested, right? And because of that, what's happening is that it creates the abundance of forested areas. Right, so C. Right, number 30. Fringing reefs are said to be a horseshoe in shape, horseshoe in shape, B, attached to the mainland, C, built on a submerged platform, or D, separated from the land by a narrow lagoon. What do we think for this one? The built on submerged platform, that's not CSEC level, to be very honest. Yeah. Horseshoe in shape, that's a barrier reef, right? And this is not here, right? So we're going with D. You want to know what I want you all to be careful with for this one? This could potentially also be B as well. Because what do we say? Fringing reefs also attached to the mainland because of that close proximity. So if y'all had to weigh it between B and D, y'all are like, we going with D? Because that's also a characteristic of a fringing reef, right? Being attached to the mainland is also part of it. A bit more at, a higher level of geography, right? Good. I just wanted you all to be aware of that in case, like that's the only option, right? Let's say they didn't have separated from the land by a narrow lagoon, you would know then that, that could be an option. 31 on this side. When magma emerges on the surface, right, it may lead to the formation of, good, we did that one, lava flows, this type of drainage. And number 35, and that is our radial drainage. We've looked at those two before. We want to scroll to some of them we have not looked at as yet. Let's go over to 32, right? Which of the following purposes do lines of latitude serve? Right? A, separate climatic zones. B, determine the time zone. C, advance the calendar by a day. Or D, divide the earth into the east and west. What do you think? It does not divide the earth into the east and west because that's a longitude. It doesn't advance the calendar by a day, that's also longitude. It doesn't determine the time zone, that's a longitude. So it separates the climatic zone. So when you talk about proximity or distance away from the equator. Good. Oh, let's do 33 first and then we'll come to 36, right? Let's do 33 first, as it's right there, and then we'll come to 36. 33 first and then 36. Right. One of the main characteristics of equatorial rainforest trees is A, they shed their leaves during dry season. B, small thin leaves to reduce transpiration. C, large buttress roots to provide stability, or D, extensive roots to reach the groundwater? Which one do we think for number 33? Equatorial rainforest. When they shed their leaves, think about it this way. Does the equatorial rainforest have a dry season? No, it does not. So it's not going to shed its leaves, right? That's the tropical grassland. The tropical grassland also has small, thin leaves, right, to reduce evapotranspiration. The tropical grassland also has extensive roots to reach the groundwater, so they're xerophytic. So the equatorial rainforest is a large buttress roots, right? Good, good. Number 36, lovely question. It's a little scenario, right? In January, right, the temperature suddenly drops and the wind speed increases, the sky becomes gradually overcast and there is a light shower. What type of weather system is being described? We have A, hurricane, B, cold front, C, tropical wave, or D, tropical convergence zone. What do we think? January is the keyword there. Which one? Good. Our cold front, because the cold front affects the Caribbean in January, right? So that was the key thing there. Good. I know for those of us who just joined, we're doing it side by side, but let's go with 34 and then we'll do 37. Which of the following constituents of the soil produces inorganic mineral content? A, humus. I skipped to the 5. No, we did to the 5 already, but I did it on the side. So what happened was I did it on the side here when we did this one. So we're not going in order. I'm going side by side. So number 35 was radial. Because it's radiating outwards, number 35 would have been radial. Yeah, so it's just me going side to side. Right? Which of the following constituents of the soil, we're doing 35, produces inorganic mineral matter? Inorganic is the key word, right? A, humus, B, leaf litter, C, parent material, or D, microorganisms. It is C, because humus, leaf litter, and microorganisms, right, they're all linked to the organic content of the soil. Let's go to number 37 now, right? Which of the following statements about the greenhouse effect is true, right? And we did this, but let's recap. A, it results from increased globalization. B, it makes the weather more unpredictable. C, it lowers the temperature on mountain tops. Or D, it is a natural process that warms the Earth's surface. What was the answer for this one? I want to know there after we had a lovely discussion about this one, right? It's a natural process that warms the earth because increased globalization does increase it. It does make the weather more unpredictable, and that difference there. So it's not those, it is a natural process, right? Because that prevents the earth from getting too hot and too cold. It's what's been preventing a next ice age. But the increased human impact is causing a lot more heat and heat waves. Right. Number 38, we're across on this side now, right? A volcanic spine can develop when A caldera is present, B, the lava is viscous, C, the explosion is violent, or D, ash and cinder are ejected. So when do we get a volcanic spine? The ash and cinder ejected will create that ash and cinder cone, right? So what do we think? So this one is B because, oh, not wrong, not the wrong thing I'm using. So with this one, think about it this way, right? So we have, y'all know I'm not the best at drawing, right? So give me a second, right? So you all know the I'm not the best at drawing. So this is a volcano with a vent, right? And that thick viscous acid lava. So that thick viscous acid lava is going to be moving up there. Because it's thick, it's going to move very slowly. And because it moves very slowly, right, what happens is that it will solidify, right? And as it solidifies, what happens is that all of that heat and that magma and that gas is going to be to the bottom there. It's going to be just holding up there while that material is trying to push upwards, but it is blocked. And because of that, right, what happens is that it will then explode, and then it will create, that sort of pillar over the vent there, right? So the lava is viscous, right? So it's slightly different to the plug, right? Because the spine tends to be like more of an extrusive feature, but the plug is more like the neck. So it's like different levels. But don't think of them as the exact same thing, right? Because the spine tends to collapse a lot. Right. So we all good with this one, done. Fun new one that we didn't do 39. Which of the following elements, and we're doing 39, is mainly responsible for the high temperature in the Caribbean? A. Rainfall, B. Latitude, C. Altitude, or D. Humidity. What do we think? Which one is mainly responsible for our temperatures in the Caribbean? High temperatures. Definitely latitude, proximity to the equator, right? Good. So that's what causes our temperature to be so high. Right. Number 40. Which of the following conditions result from increased use of tropical rainforests for agricultural land? Right? So remember, we spoke about that. To get that agricultural land, you have to clear the tropical rainforest. So you have deforestation. So does it cause A, an increased height of the trees, B, greater variety of plants, C, greater rates of erosion of the topsoil, or D, increased amount of nutrients added to the soil? Good. And it will be good, greater rates of erosion, because you clear the land. There's more surface runoff because there's less infiltration, there is less interception, right? More surface runoff, so you have more erosion. Right. So we're going to look at this diagram, and it says items 41 to 42. We have the source, right? And it says what erosional process is occurring on the riverbed shown in the diagram. A, attrition, B, solution, C, corrosion or abrasion, or D, hydraulic action. What do we think? What do we remember was the answer for this one? Because we did it. When the boulders are dragging and we have that sort of sandpapering effect, good corrosion, and we have it just eroding that riverbed there, right? So good. Remember, corrosion is another name for abrasion. Which of the following landforms is located at X? Let's see if you all remember what X was. A, gorge, B, valley, C, plunge pool, or D, interlocking spur. What was X? Right, X's are interlocking spurs, so you have those spurs and they're interlocking in that valley, right? So good. Right. Number 43. This was one we did. That's fine. I didn't even realize. I thought you were just saying something. Right, and number 43, you all remember this question, we did it, right? Which of the following statements about soil is generally true? A, the depth increases as more moisture content increases. The acidity increases as the humus content decreases. The fertility decreases as the humus content decreases. For sure, no. And then the acidity increases as the moisture content decreases, right? We said this was D because when you have less moisture content, there you have more concentration of hydrogen ions and there's more acidity in the soil, right? Let's do 47 as it's on the side, right? Which of the following is the most serious problems hindering rapid agricultural development in the Caribbean? A, lack of capital. B, rapid soil erosion. C, a lack of crop variety. Or D, a high incidence of crop disease. What do we think? Which one is this one? Biggest thing affecting agricultural development in the Caribbean. Good, a lack of capital. Let's go back across to 44. Which of the following is the main renewable energy source used in the Caribbean? A, solar. B, wind. C, tidal. Or D, geothermal. What do we think for this one? Solar. I don't know why I said A, terminal there. I was even terminal. It was just A, solar. Number 48 on the side now, right? Which of the following features is typical of large scale commercial arable farming, right? Good. A, small acreage. B, multi-crop system. C, subsistence practices. Or D, intensive mechanization. What do we think? So it's not small acreage. It is not multi-crop. It tends to be monocrop. It's not subsistence practices. It is intensive mechanization. So lots of machinery, lots of capital, lots of chemicals. Right. I'll scroll for 46 after, right? Let's do 46, 45. Areas closer to the poles receive less heat energy than those closer to the equator because the sun's rays are A, reflected at higher altitude. B, absorbed by at higher latitudes. C, directly over the higher latitudes. Or D, spread over a larger area at higher latitudes. So yeah, this one was D completely, right? Let's go across to 49. The removal of preferential trade agreements impacts Caribbean traditional export crops because such agreements A, stimulate policies. B, encourage competition. C, encourage climate change. Or D, increase global market shares. This was one we did. What did we say again? Encourage competition because you lose the market, you lose that sort of guaranteed pricing, so there's more competition. Let's do 50 and then I'll scroll. Which of the following is a benefit of mangrove wetlands to Caribbean countries? A, first time I'm doing this one, right? So we're talking about mangrove wetlands. A, they contribute to beach formation. B, they bring stability to coastal areas. C, their root system loosens the sediment from rivers. Or D, they grow rapidly and cause congestion in waterways. Yeah, y'all are correct. Definitely B, they bring stability because of their root system. Right, scrolling across. Which of the following human activities contribute to landslides? 1, terracing. 2, logging. Or 3, mining. Which one do we think all of them contribute to landslides? Or if we had to remove one, what would we remove? So logging causes landslides, mining causes landslides, right? But terracing does not. That sort of step-like feature, when rain falls, it will cause the water to hold there and infiltrate. It will flow down, it will infiltrate. So terracing is how you reduce landslides. So because of that, the answer is C, because none of them with one in it would be the correct one, right? Good. Good. Right, let's do this one on the side here. And this is for item 51, right? And it says, which of the following processes are most likely to result in the formation of X? What is X though? Before we look at what the options, what is X? What is X? What's that feature called, that X? It starts with an S. Don't give me the answers. Yeah, so tell me what's the name of the feature. Now the tombolo. The tombolo connects the mainland to another island. So the tombolo would be the mainland to another island. It's a spit, right? And it's a curved head spit, right? Good. So that itself, which of the following results or causes X to form, right? Let's go for each one. Does wave refraction cause a spit to form? Yeah or no? Yeah, the tombolo connects to the island. One of them is an odd one out here. Don't give me the answers yet. Does wave refraction cause spits to form? Yeah, no. Like, nah. No, it does not, because you talk about headlands and bays. Longshore drift is what transports the material, so definitely wave deposition, definitely to redistribute it. So any that has one in it, you're gonna cross it out. So any that has one in it, one time. So that's why you all should be doing deduction, right? So when you have like 1, 2, 3, and then options there, go through it and put a tick or X and say which one applies and which one doesn't apply, right? So that one is C, like you will see it. Right. Number 54, we're on the side here. Which of the following is a major impact of urban sprawl? A, traffic congestion. B, increase in open space. C, reduce risk of flooding. Or D, migration from rural areas. What did we say was the answer for this one? Right, traffic congestion. Excellent. There is a reduction in open space. There is an increased risk of flooding, and that migration. Yeah, so that was an issue there. So we corrected it to traffic. Did they tell you all you can't write in the booklet? I'm not sure if you can or cannot. Because I know we could have. Did they tell you all that, or is it like a new rule or something? I don't know, because I know you should be able to. Yeah, so you can write in the booklet, because I they give you the sheet to just. Oh my gosh! And when you all are shading, have a ruler on you, right? Because usually it has, and also you can't. So some persons are saying you can't, and some are saying you can. Because I know you're. Yeah, because you write on the shaded sheet. Oh, that's what you meant by that. Okay. Wait. I get it now. I get it. I get how there could be a bit of ambiguity with this. So you put your answers on the sheet that they give you. So they'll give you. I interpreted the question different, right? Because the question says why we cannot write on the booklet, right? So what I was saying is write over the booklet if you want, but make sure your correct answer is on the sheet, the shading sheet, right? So there will be like 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 60, and then it will have to shade A, B, C, D, right? So they'll show you what to do when they're given the instructions. But you do not put your answer on the booklet, right? With the questions itself. because that'll be so usually as area that's like my thing with the ruler. So you know like how you tend to have like one, two, three, four, and then it would be like A, B, C, D. I like to use my ruler so that I can make sure that I'm in line with that and the question. Because you know sometimes when you're shading, and let's say two is hard and you miss out two and you want to do three, you don't want to shade two for three and there. So like I always say use the ruler so it helps you to make sure you're on the right line. Good. But that should be traffic, not tragic congestion. But I'll probably crack my joke again because I said that will be tragic if it were tragic congestion. But only one person laughed at my joke last time, eh? But you know, let's look at number 55 now. Which of the following is a primary? Let me zoom a bit so that we could see a bit better. Right? Which of the following is a nope on the wrong question? Right? Which of the following is a primary sector activity? A. Canning tomatoes. B. Conducting museum tours. C. Designing carnival costumes. Or D. Blasting boulders in a quarry. It is D. Blasting boulders in a quarry because it is an extractive industry. Good. Was that your delayed laugh to my joke? Or was that an internal joke you're having? Number 56. Which of the following factors is or are most likely to pose a serious threat to rivers, right? Yeah, only one person laughed last time. But you know, the thing with jokes is that as long as you laugh at your joke, when it's like a non-offensive one, though, right? A. Tourism. B. Landslide. C. Factory waste. Or D. Fishing practices. Good. It was our factory waste, right? Because that will end up in our rivers and then pollutes the entire area. Oh, this one is long in terms of that, right? So good. So 57, which is this one that we're doing here, this is for country X and it has percentage of employment. So we have primary, secondary, tertiary, and it says which of the following factors is most likely to cause a rapid increase in the tertiary sector shown. So if we look at the tertiary sector, it went all the way up here. I put it in that red line for you. A large unskilled labor force is available. B. Increased demand for services due to improved standard of living. C. Increased profitability of primary industries resulting from tax break. Or D. Government policies which encourage the development of industrial estates. A large unskilled labor force, that has to do with industrialization, right? Increased profitability of the primary industry, that'll boost primary. Government policies for industrial estate, that will be industries as well. But B, the increased demand for services due to improved standard of living. So what happens is when there's a lot of money for manufacturing and it triggers increased disposable income and purchasing power, then you need more services, so you will have more tertiary activities. Right, let's go back to 58, 59, 60. So number 58, which of the following factors is most important when locating primary industries? What did we say was this one? A, power. B, labor. C, transportation. Or D, raw materials. The primary industry. Which one was that? Good. D, raw materials. Right, 59. Which of the following conditions, right, is least likely to result from the setting up of secondary industries in the Caribbean? A, increased exports. B, reduced cost of living. C, increased employment. or D, reduce transportation of consumer goods? And the key thing was least. So this one is, what's this one? This one is reduced cost of living, right? Because what happens is export, employment, importation, those things are bigger factors, right? Last one, which of the following conditions is most likely to result from tropical deforestation? What was the answer for this one? A, loss of flora, B, increased fauna, C, increased lumbering, or D, increase in groundwater? What do we think? Good, loss of flora. Good, and we have finished another paper. What did you think of this paper? A bit more difficult? I personally think, yeah. But don't worry, we said this was the last one that we're doing. So we're actually wrapping up. Now saw your response, Hassan. It was okay? Because we've been here since what? Like after 1 or something. The time is saying 3 hours and 48 minutes. Right, but I believe you're supposed to get the recording right away, right? So, right, I'm gonna end the stream right now, right? Yeah, that was the last one we were doing because we started like since after 1. Yeah, yeah. Right? Yeah, it's actually 4 hours we've been here. Right? But for those of you who actually, I'll message you all in the groups. Right. But I'm going to end it off, right? But good luck in your thing. Try to do as much practice. Read the question properly, right? That's no problem, right? And, read the question properly. Make sure if you don't know one, just skip it and come back. Like that random one we were doing and had to do all that averaging. So just skip it and come back, right? So good luck. And for those of us in my class, tell me how it goes. But good luck studying. Try to get enough sleep tonight and drink water and have a good breakfast before you go tomorrow. Bye bye. Good luck studying. Maybe take a small mental break and then go. Bye bye, everyone. I'm just allowing y'all to leave before I end it. Bye bye.